All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Friday night, and you know what time it is, and we'll talk all the latest happenings here in the world of sports, and especially in baseball, football, you name it, Canelo, I don't know what else is out there, college football, and we'll do that with some of my guys here, including Billy McInerney, formerly of Elite Sports, Chris Pizzea of the Talking Rivals and the Liftoff Jets, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, and the aforementioned brute force Bradley Weiss of many, many hats, of course, the Level Up organization, which does a great job in the Long Island community in basketball, also the Long Island Nets, the Long Island Brew Crew, if they still exist, and Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV basketball team, where he's the head coach, and of course, can never forget about the SJC New York Golden Eagles. So since my voice is 100% for the first time on a Friday in weeks, I'm going to do my usual intro. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one level sports show, the Sportswire Radio Team. Gentlemen, I don't get to do that intro too often here on Fridays because usually my voice is shot by this time. But how you all doing tonight?
Great.
Doing pretty good. I got to say, I'm pretty fired up after that.
All right, well, I'm glad to hear because I had a few wrestlers on yesterday, and they said that they were really fired up and wanted to go through a wall. And the Brute Force, I know in SJC in your playing days, we didn't get quite that intro for you, but be that as it may, forget about the intros. There is a lot to talk about. I'll get to baseball in a little while. I'll have Rob Morosco on, and we'll do the Met dance, we'll do the Yankee dance, and we'll go into all of that. But I want to start off with the NFL here, and I want to go with a tale of two teams. And I actually want to go with the New York Giants. I'll come with the Jets. There's a lot to talk about with the Jets, but the Giants, I'll tell you what I heard and what I saw is that, you know what? Maybe there's some hope after all with the New York Football Giants, and I want to go with Billy McInerney first because he used to cover the New York Giants, and he was locked in, I know, Sunday afternoon, and certainly we all picked the game last weekend. I don't think anybody gave the Giants a prayer or a snowball's chance in hell to win, and Billy, I mean, talk about the New York Football Giants. Maybe they're going to give us some hope after all.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game. I mean, we've been saying, I think when the schedule came out, we went through the schedule and we all kind of had them hanging on the playoff contention just based on, how easy the schedule was. Certainly the Titans were not a game we saw them winning. I didn't either.
Me either, no.
And look, it was a weird – they got to a horrible start. It looked like, more of the same in the first half, 13-0 at the end. Offense wasn't really doing anything. But, that, whereas in years past that would have been the game, you could have turned it off and, taking a few hours, do some, housework before Game of Thrones came on Sunday night. This year they actually looked like they rallied back. They played a good second half. Saquon Barkley had one of the best games of his career. Jalen Jones had a career game other than a brutal interception. But look, it's week one. Remember last year the Titans and Packers both lost week one, and they were the number one seeds. And
yep,
look, let's call it what it is. Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones both had career games, and they still won on missed field goals. So I'm not looking into this as, they're a contender, they're going to be a threat. But it's certainly a step in the right direction from years past when, 13-0 at half, you could turn the game off and you knew what the result was going to be. So, it's an improvement, but I'm not ready to say that they're going to be a great team. They're going to be challenging for the NFC East, or they're going to be a team you don't want to play in the playoffs. None of that's going to be true, I don't think. But it's a good start. Certainly playing spoiler against a good team is, always a benefit.
No question about that here. And certainly, Chris, obviously, we'll get to the Jets for sure because I know you're going to have a lot to say. I know Justin will as well. And I was listening to talk radio throughout the week. But Giants, to me, it almost reminded me in a way – I believe it was the first game that Daniel Jones had won against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a few years back. Yeah. And had feelings about it. Saquon makes these big plays. Shepard gets the big catch. And I mean, it was an impressive win. And obviously, Brian Daboll is now 1-0 as a head coach. And Giants have a little momentum. And what was your impressions of the Giant game on Sunday?
It was definitely surprising. And I think the one big thing is seeing Saquon Barkley kind of get back to the running back that he was a couple of years ago when he first came into the league and before the injury. He was running really well, very confident. Yeah, you know what? And give Daniel Jones credit. You know, he did enough to win. Going for that 2-point conversion at the end, obviously that was
Gutsy
great
call.
for them.
That
Yeah,
was a
very
gutsy
gutsy.
call.
Yeah, because that could have went the other way, obviously, if it doesn't go, if it doesn't work.
Yeah,
But
that's the game.
this also too, I think this is also showing us kind of the end of this Tennessee Titans run with Ryan Tannehill. I think I think this is his last year there. I know he's got a couple more years left on his contract, but they could cut him after this year, and I think it's only like an $18 million dead cap hit. I know I'm saying only. That's a pretty big.
It goes down. I think it was like $57 million this year.
Yeah, so an $18 million one is not going to be that bad, but I think it's just a matter of time before. What's the backup they got now? Malik Willis. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before he takes over, and I hope it's not. But when you look at Derrick Henry too, I mean, he looked kind of ordinary too. I hope this isn't the end of his run too. I mean, if he can't carry this team is not making the playoffs this year. I'll say that.
I don't think Henry's done yet. I mean, remember the Giants have like 15 defensive tackles that were all first round picks under Dave Gettleman. So I think they're just uniquely built to stop a strong running back like Henry. I wouldn't get worried about Henry until you see a few more weeks like that. Then obviously, yeah, he'll get worried. But this early, I don't think there's anything there that makes you think he's not going to be, towards the top of the league in rushing.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll certainly find out. Obviously, it was kind of a role of reversals. I mean, Henry, one of the best backs in the league. Barkley has been hurt, hasn't given you much, but Barkley had just one of those games you kind of were hoping for year after year after year. And, Justin, Giants certainly get off to a nice start. They get a nice comeback in the second half, and people feel good about the team. And certainly it gives at least us here hope that one New York team maybe will be competitive at least throughout September. And certainly, thankfully, it's not another 0-4 when it comes to the New York football teams. And give me your impressions on the Giants game and their 1-0 start so far.
I think the biggest thing you take away from this is the coaching staff and then the adjustments that they made in the second half, and how they were able to fix what they were doing on offense, because they were really struggling in the first half of the game, and then they turn things around. They start running the ball better. Saquon Barkley, it looked like for the first time since he suffered that ACL injury in Chicago. First time it looked like Saquon Barkley welcomed contact. He wasn't dancing around in the backfield. He was very sure about where he was going, and it led to a really strong game. And it just shows you how versatile of a player he is. It shows you, what he could be for this Giants offense. And another thing too that I absolutely loved was Brian Daboll chewing out Daniel Jones on the sidelines for that that horrendous interception, which was just an absolute god awful decision. I don't know what he was looking at on that play, but and it was almost I forget what game it was, but there was another game, maybe it was a game, the play they ran earlier, where that exact play design worked, and they swung it to the running back because the safety dropped back. In this case, the safety didn't, and therefore the interception happened. And you're not as talented as Saquon Barkley is, he's not winning a jump ball in the end zone. He's just not. No. But
especially when it's underthrown by 4 yards.
Yeah, it was underthrown. It was just an all around bad. So to see the coaching staff make adjustments was a welcome sight, because it's not something we saw from Joe Judge. It's not something we saw from Pat Shermer. We rarely saw these guys make adjustments, and Brian Daboll in his first game made a good impression. I thought overall, not a terrible game scheme design from Mike Kafka. Obviously his debut as a offensive coordinator, and then obviously you have the veteran Wink Martindale, who knows what he's doing. And I love the comments yesterday. You're pumping up the crowd, telling them to bring it tomorrow for the Giants home opener, because you know what, this is an opportunity for them. This really is. And you know what, I should have taken the bait. There was a reason why Tennessee was only a 5.5-point favorite. So clearly the Giants were somewhat of a live underdog, and they came to play late in the game. And obviously, someone's going to have to bring in a wheelbarrow for those onions that Brian Daboll has for going for 2 there. But you know what? I would have done the same thing. And like he said, if we missed it, I can live with it. And you know what? You got to still win somewhere. If you're a team like the Giants where there's low expectations, and now in an NFC East without Dak Prescott for the foreseeable future, it's a very winnable division. Now, I think the Eagles have a lot more talent, and I think ultimately the Eagles are going to be the best team in the division. But that was a way for the Giants to steal a victory, and now they have a golden opportunity to start 2-0.
Wow, I mean, the brute force Brad Weiss. I mean, who would have thought that now all of a sudden after what Justin said here, that the New York Giants could even be maybe a playoff contender, could be maybe even in first place. I mean, boy, that's what one game can do. And, I want to ask you this question to brute force in a different way about the Giants, because I'm sure we'll speak about that. We'll pick some games here for a little bit. Obviously, we'll get into baseball. Obviously, I see here Mets are looking good for sure. They're looking like they're about to bounce back here. But, as a player, you're in that locker room, and late in that game, coach makes a decision to go for 2. It's his first game there as an official head coach. For you, the brute force, you've played for a couple different coaches. You've been in some interesting situations. That's got to motivate you and want to go through a wall for a coach like that who makes a gutsy play on the road like that. You could lose the game. And we're not talking about the New York Giants the way we're talking about them right now. So talk to me, the brute force, then, on how you would feel as a player with the decision that Brian Daboll made late in that game going for 2.
Yeah, listen, it could go one of 2 ways when you make a decision like that. It could either go really well or really bad, because obviously if the Giants did not convert there, then they're probably looking at a loss, most likely. So it could go.
They are looking at a loss, pretty much, yeah.
So it could have gone either way, but as Giant fans message me, they called him Jay Balls, all right, for being bold. That's what they said, all right? And listen, all right, I give them props. Listen, especially a Giants team, right, that just came off the season that they had. You want to see the coach be aggressive. You want to see the coach go for a win like that. And the Giants had every opportunity to win that game. Now, I hate to be a little bit of the party pooper early in the show, all right? Because
Mr. Confidence, Mr.
I want to give the Giants flowers and get like, yay, Giants, you won. All right, but at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, you got to talk about the Titans, too, in this situation. The Titans, I got to be honest with you, underwhelmed me big time. And I think that for a team that, we thought was going to compete for a division now that looks pretty weak, actually, considering how the Colts looked last week, too. It's concerning to see the Titans play the way the Titans played. And I know that people say, oh, well, they got off to a good start. Sure, they got off to a good start, but they didn't play well the rest of the game. And they seem very one-dimensional with Derrick Henry or nothing. What are they getting out of, what do they have at the top positions like wide receiver? What do they have at tight end? What do they have at quarterback? They don't really excite you at any part of the game, and their defense is average at best. So I'm not really high on the Titans. And again, I don't want to take away anything from the Giants because they deserve the win. Saquon Barkley played really well. That has to be really exciting for Giants fans. And for a guy like Barkley, right, he's playing for a contract. So you got to love to see him going out there and laying it all on the line for the team. But I won't forget, though, because, we haven't said it, but we can't forget that Barkley doing well. Also, you have to give credit to the offensive line, which has been a
good point. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Issue for the Giants. We have heard Billy, I've heard everybody come on in. Oh, the line stinks. The line stinks. The hog mollies. All right? Back in the day with Gettleman. All right? But now they look pretty solid on the offensive line. If they could be solid, we're not asking them to be great. If they could be solid and Saquon Barkley can rush for 100, close to 100 yards a game, the Giants are definitely going to be successful. And I think Justin's not wrong. I think that they have a chance now to win some games and take advantage, especially from that team in Dallas, man. And we're going to get to that now. The accident waiting to happen has already started. Because they're not, to me, they're not a playoff team, the Cowboys right now. Giants have a better chance than the Cowboys right now to actually make the playoffs.
So interesting how things change after 1 week. Cowboys, Sunday night, America's
only 1 week, guys. That's what I'm saying.
But
let's slow it down here. Yeah, let's slow it down for a second.
But that's exactly my point. Thank you for bringing that up here, Chris, because you think about it, right? After 1 week, oh, you know what? Maybe this Giant team, they're all right. Dallas, it's a ticking time bomb. Maybe we can go to division, maybe do different things. And before we pick some games here, I got to get to the Jets side because obviously I know Justin's going to explode here like one of my professional wrestlers that's come on to Sportswire Radio pretty frequently. So I'll go straight to the jugular here because I got a feeling a lot of people are going to want to hear this. I mean, Justin, I was thinking about you this morning. I was listening to talk radio and I was listening about this whole debate about Mike White and Joe Flacco and Robert Saleh going after fans and certainly checking everybody. And I'm sure Chris will have some of the same remarks because he and Sharman obviously certainly are going to speak about it this weekend for us on Sportswire Radio. But, is it another year with the Jets? Here we go again. Go on and shoot from the hip.
It was an absolute embarrassment on Sunday. Absolute utter embarrassment to not show up like that on opening day. Your offense doing absolutely nothing from the opening kickoff. How can you even spin a positive about that? Sure, the defense played great, but they also made mistakes and gave up a couple of big plays that led to Lamar Jackson passing touchdowns. The offense couldn't convert a third down until 5 minutes ago in the fourth quarter.
And the only team in the 1 o'clock hour that didn't score a touchdown was the New York Jets until that last
the last drive. The last drive they finally scored a touchdown. Let's ask the room here. Has anyone ever seen a human corpse? Well, you have now with Joe Flacco. Because
technically, I have seen a human corpse.
Joe Flacco is dead man walking. He can't move in the pocket. He's inaccurate with his throws. He's washed up. He's absolutely washed up. He cannot play in this game. And you know what? Myles Garrett's coming after him this week. Absolutely coming after him. And you know what? If George Fant plays the way he played on Sunday, I don't even know if Joe Flacco survives. They might have to go to Mike White. But
bring the body bag out for him.
But you know what? I give Joe Flacco a half because they've already determined that they're starting Joe Flacco. I give Joe Flacco a half, because you know what? This ain't gonna last. I'm gonna have to go to Mike White. Because you know what? Until Zach
Wilson.
Are you
sure, though, with the only 2 career starts, do you want to just go with Mike White? Because that's been the whole topic throughout the week.
But you know what? At least Mike White showed you something against the Cincinnati Bengals, right? He
got 400-yard game under his belt. I give you that.
But he also showed you something against Buffalo that you don't want him to start against.
Which is a total right?
I understand.
But the one thing I can rely on with Mike White is he can move around in the pocket a hell of a lot better than Joe Flacco. With the way the Jets offensive line is, they need somebody who can move around the pocket. That's why I don't, despite how rough the offensive line looked, with Zach Wilson under center, I will still feel okay about this offense because he can make plays on the run. He can make plays with his feet if need be. So the offense will still look at least formidable and can score some points. Now I want to get to Coach Saleh. Because after that utter disaster and another week where the offense looked unprepared, refused to show up. You see this right here? This is a receipt.
Is that from CBS?
All the torture that I've been put through since 1999 as a Jet fan. I'm sick of the losing. When are we going to win another September game? Sam Darnold's debut in 2018 was the last time we won a game in September. It's about time things change. And
when I heard that stat, I couldn't believe
he's not the right coach of this team. Why are you attacking the fan base and saying we're going to take receipts, and we're going to show you, and we're going to show it to you when we turn things around? I don't trust you to turn this thing around. I don't trust you to turn it around. I just talked about complimenting Brian Daboll for his adjustments. When has Robert Saleh made a game adjustment to bring the Jets back into the game? He hasn't. He's 4-14 as the head coach. At some point, it's unacceptable. And you know what?
286 winning percentage. That's what it tells you.
If they go 5-12 this year, which I'm definitely afraid that they will, he's gone. They're going to fire him. He's made an ass out of himself, and he's doing himself no favors. his only saving grace would be Zach Wilson coming back looking like a superstar. And I'm not even 100% confident in that. I believe he can still do that, but I'm not 100% confident. And you know what? They're on their way to getting steamrolled on Sunday. Because you tell me how they're scoring points. They're not. They might be able to slow down a bad quarterback in Jacoby Brissett and a very good run game because, they handled the run game very well. Lamar Jackson was limited in the run game, and the running backs really didn't do anything for Baltimore, a team predicated on the run. Now you're facing two of the best backs in the NFL, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And
Browns look good all of a sudden. I mean, another team, kind of like the Giants.
But you know what? Jacoby Brissett didn't play well. They ran the ball down Carolina's throat in week 1. I don't think they're going to be able to do that to the Jets. The Jets are going to be able to hold up their end defensively. But the offense has to compete. I'm sick and tired of non-competitive offense. You watch a game like, I know we'll get to it later. You watch a game last night like the Chargers and Chiefs. It's a whole different sport than what we're watching.
Yeah.
When do the Jets go up and down the field with teams, except for one rare game that Mike White has? Mike White had the best single game performance from a quarterback in like the last 25 years.
And there was one other game, I think, last year. I forget who it was. It was the Colts game where the Jets got a whole bunch of offense late, if I'm not mistaken. It was the Thursday.
It was late in the game, and
Other than that, I can't think of any Jet 300-yard performance in the last 3 years.
It was Josh Johnson. It wasn't even Joe Flacco. Josh Johnson.
Flacco had 300 yards this week.
Yeah, great. Because in the late fourth quarter, when it's 24-3, the Ravens are playing soft coverage and letting them go up and down the field because they just want the time to go off the clock. They said, "We're bored. We got ourselves."
Let me get to a hold. Let me read off the hold.
Now the Browns got themselves free. Hey, guess what? The Browns haven't been 2-0 since 1993 until this week.
And when the Cleveland Browns were 2-0, I believe the quarterback. Yeah, I believe the quarterback was Bernie Kosar. That's a long time ago there. But let me read off some comments before I get to Chris, and we'll try to come back here a little bit. Come back down to earth here. The goddamn Jets, as Anthony J. Finkel has said here, and he was at the game as well with Chris. And I'm in an abusive relationship with the Jets. Every year they break my heart. He has literally said that.
Anthony, I'm just numb at this point. I'm just numb at this point.
No, me too.
Lincoln Park, comfortably numb. That's the thing that I'm thinking of here. The fans showed up. The defense showed up, but the Jets offense didn't. Yeah, the defense wasn't terrible. I definitely agree with that. Do you want to see a dead body? Nice, Justin. What else we got here? 3.5. 3 at the half. You got to pull him, meaning Flacco.
Yep.
If you're going to lose, at least lose with youth, and he can use his feet. Those Pee-wee players from Deer Park made the Jets look bad, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Sam Darnold won that season opener against the Lions, but started the game with a pick six, an omen of things to come. Salad doesn't make second-half adjustments. All right, so, Chris, obviously we're going to hear tomorrow on Sportswire Radio what you and Sharman had to say about the game. You guys were both there. I saw the stuff on Facebook, but, I mean, is it that bad, or maybe this team can turn it around here still, or is it just one game, as Anthony Finkel would say in his own words, an omen of things to come?
I think they can turn it around, and here's a couple of things that I seen from the game.
All right, talk to me.
From the defensive side, okay, the one thing we needed to improve was our run defense, right? And I think that is incredibly improved from last year. Last year, the Ravens would have destroyed us. We would have lost by 40 points this past weekend, if the run defense was like last year. So I think the run defense did very well. I think we gave up, 50, 60 yards for combined, right? So I think we did great against the run. Pass, I mean, other than LaMarcus Joyner, the defense played really well, right? He's the guy that blew that for that one big long pass. And the other one, when Bryce Hall was beat, Bryce Hall was on top of that guy. That was just a great pass by Lamar Jackson. And let's be honest, if you tell Lamar Jackson to do that again, he is not making that throw again. So it was just a great throw. Let's tip the cap, give him whatever. But still, right? So I think the defense is going to be fine this year as long as we stay healthy. But I think the defense will be fine. And the offense, here's my Here's what I'm holding out for. I know you guys are going to hold out for it too with me, is that the offensive line has not played together up until this past week, right? This was really their first game they played together because of the injuries and everything else and the shuffling back and forth. So this is the first time they've lined up the way that they're going to line up here that week. So I'm going to hope and I'm going to think that they're going to get better as the weeks go on, and hopefully a lot better this week because they have now 2 weeks under their belt. So that's the way I'm looking at it from the offensive side. And here's the one thing that bothered me during the game, and then when I got home, I looked at the stats, was why isn't Garrett Wilson playing more? The guy played, I think, 48% of the snaps. This guy should be in for more than half the snaps. It's ridiculous. I look at Corey Davis, all right, and he had a huge drop early in the game, right? On that, I think it was the first drive. He made that big drop, whatever. I think, to me, Wilson should be playing more than Davis at this point. Davis is not going to be here after this year. He's going to get cut or traded after this year. So I don't know why he's getting more time than Garrett Wilson is. Garrett Wilson is a number 10 overall pick, and they're worried about, he doesn't know this route tree. He doesn't know that route tree. Figure it out and put him out there. You wasted a number 10 overall pick on him. It's not like we're talking about a 4th-round pick. He's a number 10 overall pick. He can handle it. And we could see the plays that he made when he did have the ball. So for me, he's got to get the ball more. You got to get the ball to your playmakers. It's as simple as that. And why they even played Cager over Ruckert, that's another thing that bothered me. I get that Ruckert missed a lot of time, but
Ruckert wasn't even active.
Right. It makes no sense. And we've seen Cager, he tripped, and that's what caused the interception, okay, on that play. And then he also had a big penalty that caused us. Yeah. So, I mean, why is he playing? Another one, Ruckert. I mean, he was another. Play him. I don't understand some of these decisions. So I'm hoping we see something different this week coming up from the Jets. And here's my thing with Salah, with his the keeping receipts and stuff like that. I'm okay with what he said, because now what you're hearing now from the team was like to hear him say that, because he's defending his team. I mean, I don't know what else people want him to say. We suck. We messed up. We're going to try to win next week. No, he's defending his team. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, he's got to win games. I agree. You got to start winning games, pal. There's no more, it's a rookie head coach or it's a rookie team and all that.
Not with this franchise. Not with this franchise and the lack of success. No.
You got to start winning games. So, but I'm okay with what he said, because he's defending his team and himself, and his team backed him up with that. So here's the thing. The team and him have to back up that comment this week against the Browns. They have
they certainly better. We're going to pick some games here in a couple of minutes for sure. And Billy, obviously, you certainly got to be feeling good, because you're not on the Jets side, and for once, you're actually on the good foot. But, I mean, what are your impressions, I guess, sort of from afar with this Jets team? I mean, obviously, as Jet fans, everybody's kind of optimistic, and you see Anthony Finkel's comments. Justin certainly went on a rant or two, and Chris is trying to dial it back a little bit for us. But, I mean, is it the sky is falling, or is maybe their hope springs eternal here this weekend?
I mean, so first of all, let me start. I actually like the Jets. My mom's a Jets fan, so I don't have the animosity towards Jets a lot of Giants fans do. I watched them in the game. I was kind of flipping back and forth between that and the Mets game. But
okay,
from what I saw, I mean, I think a lot of the issues stem from, like Justin said, Joe Flacco is just horrible. He's 2-17 in his last 19 starts. I saw fans gassing up on Twitter, he might take the job from Zach Wilson.
And I hate to say it, Billy. I think Joe Flacco is one of the more poorer all-time quarterback Super Bowl MVPs. I mean, I know he's had a good career, but it's not. I don't look at him in the same way I look at Peyton Manning.
You know what another indictment is on him?
Go ahead.
He said after the game, it felt like the offense just lacked energy.
Yeah.
Well, duh. You're the freaking leader of the team.
And
you're the quarterback.
It looked like
you don't provide energy to begin with.
It just looked like it looked like offensively they're just giving up until Zach Wilson is back, and you can't do that. So
they don't have enough time. They do not have enough time.
Right. Wonderful.
that's a damning indictment on the coaching staff if you can't get these guys to, at least look like they're putting forth an effort to win games because, you're missing Zach Wilson, who, by the way, was not good last year. It's not like you're missing Patrick Mahomes. Zach Wilson was one of the worst starting quarterbacks last year.
I know. I heard on the radio, everyone's like, okay, when Wilson comes back,
I believe in Zach Wilson, but it's not like they're missing, a Mahomes or a Herbert or, Russell Wilson or Tom Brady. If this is what they're going to look like without Zach Wilson, I like Robert Saleh. I thought he was a good hire for them, but and I don't care. You want to keep receipts, fine. Go win some games. Go be competitive. You look at Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan was loved by Jets fans when he was winning, and then when he was losing, they got tired of the brashness, the arrogance. The same issue Matt Harvey had with Mets fans. If you're doing well, people will not care, and if you're not doing well, they're going to have an issue with it. So. You want to be the guy that's going to, pick up the mantle and rah, that's fine. But you got to show something, and so far he hasn't. So that's where my issue with what Saleh said comes in. Is like, you have to do it, but you have to do something at some point. You can't, you can give all the motivational speeches. You can pump up your team in the media, whatever. At some point, you need to do something to put your team in a position to win, and he didn't do that last week. And honestly, we're talking about Myles Garrett. You could see Joe Flacco put like Avante Davis and like retire at halftime this week after after Myles Garrett rushing against George Fant and Max Mitchell. You might see him pack his locker up and head on home at halftime. So I don't know where they go from here, but they better figure it out soon.
Oh, they better figure it out because certainly there is no question that this team is definitely under some pressure here in the Brew Force. Brad Weiss, I certainly want to get your opinion. Obviously, we speak quite a bit about the Jets with you over the past few years. But again, I want to take a different path because, again, you've been a player. You're now a coach. And I look at these Saleh comments with receipts, and it almost seems to me like this guy, certainly if the Jets, let's say, God forbid, if they get blown out this weekend, this guy, he's going to be eaten alive, and he'll never come out of it on the other side, especially in this market here. So, I mean, what do you do here, the Brew Force? How did you feel from a coach's standpoint on Saleh's comments, and now as a player? How are you feeling right now in this locker room? Because you are definitely feeling the pressure here, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. With Robert Saleh, obviously there's pressure on him, but I'm actually, listen, I could easily go like Justin Gianelli and give you a New York Knicks rant right now on the Jets. I'm not going to do it, though. I'm going to remain calm.
Well, you're Mr. Confidence. You're Mr. Hope. You're Mr. Optimism. You're Mr. Hunky-dory.
Not optimistic, but realistic. All right?
all right.
I give you that. All right? Because, listen, first of all, I was one of the very fortunate people, not Justin, not Chris, and not you, Tom, that did not have to watch the Jet game on Sunday. Because we had basketball tryouts, so I did not have to go through the suffering. All right, but ultimately, I obviously saw what people call the quote-unquote highlights, which are really for the Jets, the lowlights that were on Sunday. And ultimately, the job was simply not done by Joe Flacco. Now, this is where I really want to start with Sal before I get to his receipts. Tom Bryce and everybody, can you please tell me how many times Joe Flacco threw the ball on Sunday?
59.
59 times!
Oh, my God.
Flacco! I mean, listen, there's part of me that wants to be like, yeah, Joe Flacco stinks. But why is Joe Flacco throwing the ball 59 times in a game?
That's an excellent point.
Brett, I'll tell you exactly
we were losing by a lot. They had to.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't the plan.
He was so incompetent that every drive of the first half was 3 and out. Next thing you know, they're down 17-3, 24-3. Guess what? You got no choice. It's over.
Yeah. That's not the game plan. That's not the game plan. Trust me.
Balanced offense goes out the window at that point.
Yeah,
I understand that, but it's still too many. And like you guys said, it speaks to the way the offense was operating early in the game, which is just simply not good enough. But listen, when it comes to Saleh and the receipts, all right, obviously it's not the brightest thing to say in week one when you're talking about a franchise who obviously hasn't won anything in a very long time. And right now, instead of talking about receipts, and by the way, when he was mentioning receipts, he was talking about Peyton Manning, which is not a guy you should be worrying about keeping receipts on because he's actually one of the bright minds in the NFL. maybe you should listen to him and actually.
Peyton Manning also said to hire Adam Gase, so let's not get crazy.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Let's not get crazy.
All right. I mean,
I love Peyton Manning. He's the greatest. I agree, but
he's still a bright mind besides that decision. Again, Chris, I'm trying to stay calm here. I'm trying to stay calm. Don't talk about Adam Gase, all right? Because that could go. You've heard my Adam Gase rants. But anyway, listen to me. I mean, there shouldn't be anything about receipts, all right? I know, and people were talking about it. Well, Robert Sala's more worried about his workout before the game when he's running up and down the stairs than he is about, the freaking the game itself. And listen, I do understand that he's going to be, he's trying to, like Chris said, he's trying to motivate his team. He's trying to find something to say, right, to keep the fans, with the Jets and confident in the Jets. But ultimately, words are not everything. He needs to, stop talking as much, right, and worry about the product that's on the field. And ultimately, when you have Joe Flacco out there not being able to move, not being able to execute, you have to, like the guy said, consider your options and consider what's better for the team. And I think what's better for the team is to see Mike White playing on the field, because simply Joe Flacco is not the answer. I know that it's week 1 and we want to, we don't want to jump to conclusions, but we saw enough in week 1 where this guy just simply did not have what.
And the brute force Brad Weiss froze here, and he was trying to be positive and he was trying to be hopeful, and that is certainly the magic.
Hope with the Jets. That's what nobody understands.
This is a big week to see how the players respond, especially to what Salah said, right, about the receipt taking and all that crap. This is a big week for the team, the players to respond to that, right? We'll see.
And thank God I won't be home to watch a 34-7 loss.
If they come out flat, then that whole thing about the receipts and everything did not go over well.
I will tell you this much, and I think we spoke about this even last week and the week prior when it came to the Jets team, as we were on Sportswire Radio now speaking all the latest happenings here in the world of the NFL and much, much more, is that looking at this schedule here, it could get ugly real early again. And certainly the Jets lose here, you get the feeling that this is going to be another lost season. So I would certainly agree that the Jets, at the very least, have to have a better showing, or else the wheels are already going to be off. And it's a fan base that really, we were all told, all right, we're going to show some steps. We're going to show some steps. And this is not the steps that we hoped for.
Definitely not.
Well, we'll certainly find out here for sure. And again, if you like what you hear from us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play, where you can hear the likes of the baseball banter with Justin Gianelli, the Talking Rivals with Patrick Trotty and Chris Pizzea. Also, the Liftoff Jets with Sharman Phillip and Chris Pizzea, and the brute force Brad Weiss. We were going with the hopeful tone, and then all of a sudden the magic of technology doesn't work out so well.
I'm trying. Listen, I'm always. People refer to me as the bad guy on this show. I'm trying to be a good guy right now. I'm trying to be nice.
You got into the wrestling mood. The bad guys and good guys, that's how we do it in wrestling. There are bad people, there are good people, and then there are people that play both roles and get totally different reactions. So I guess that's what you figured out.
Right. So basically, to just conclude what I was saying before I got all right. It is 1 week, but I do think that the leash on Joe Flacco needs to be quick. I mean, I think halftime might be not fast enough. If he really goes out in the first quarter and shows that he can't do his job and make throws and help the offense, and they don't score, I think he's got to be gone. I think Mike White needs to be given the opportunity. And ultimately, that is why you're going to hear my prediction later in the show with this.
Yeah, I'll do the Jets and Giants toward the end. I know we'll get Rob Morosco on at 10:45, and we'll get his take. We'll talk some baseball a little bit. We'll divert, and then we'll pick some more games afterward. I'm going to only do about 40 or so minutes on baseball tonight, maybe 45, because I really want to run through as many games as possible. And I don't even think I'm going to have Randy Dillon on, because I just want to talk NFL and baseball for sure. So let's get into some games here while we've got a little bit of time, and let's go with one of the matchups that I think a lot of people might want to hear with first. And interesting matchup. Speaking of the Baltimore Ravens, I kind of think it's a very interesting game. Dolphins and Ravens. Dolphins, again, look good. They've won 9 of their last 10 games, and they are 3.5-point underdogs against the Ravens. 44.5 is the over-under. So let's go with you, Chris. I mean, Dolphins, Ravens, interesting matchup here. And what do you think happens, and who do you like here?
You know what? I like Baltimore in this game. It's the home opener for them. They're supposed to be honoring the two Ravens that passed away this year, Siragusa and their other player that passed away. So there's going to be a lot of emotion going on in that game. I'm going to go Baltimore winning that game. I'll say 27-20.
Okay. All right. So you're going the over there. All right. Fair enough. Billy, Dolphins, Ravens there. Ravens 3.5-point favorites there, and 44.5 is the over/under. And what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of the over in that game for sure. I think it's going to be high scoring. I don't think either of those defenses are really, particularly special. I like the Ravens. I like them with that spread. I think, Lamar Jackson's a better all-around quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa is. I think, Tyreek Hill can keep it close, but I don't think the Dolphins have them to really hang with the Ravens. I think the Ravens win probably by about a touchdown, so I'm going to agree with Chris, somewhere in that 4 to 7 point range probably.
All right. For you, Justin, Dolphins, Ravens, and Ravens, they're 3.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the over/under. And what do you think?
I thought it was a good showing for the Dolphins in their opening day win over the New England Patriots. Good defense, holding New England's offense down. But the offense kind of, sputtered, only 3 points in the second half. Not fully. I don't fully trust Tua Tagovailoa. So I like Baltimore. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the 3.5-point number is a good one. It's kind of about where it should be, anywhere like a 20-16 kind of game. But I like Baltimore in this one.
All right, fair enough. And I see the screen there with the number of records, wins, and losses, and the picks. And the brute force, Brad Weiss here. Certainly, I'm going Dolphins, Ravens to you. 3.5-point favorites are the Ravens, and 44.5 is the over/under. And what do you think?
Yeah, well, I'm with all the guys so far with what they said. I mean, I think Baltimore will win this game. Again, I don't think Baltimore played their best last week, but I do think they showed reasons why they're a good football team. And I think the Dolphins, I think they're getting a little too much credit for what they did against the Patriots. The Patriots played very poorly in that game week 1, and I think that made them look better. I do know, and I will give credit again to the Dolphins because I think they're a much improved football team, and they have a great coaching staff there now. But I do think that they are a little bit over right now, over the top. People are talking really nice about them right now, and I just don't think they're at the level of Baltimore yet. I think Baltimore's still a step ahead of them, and I think ultimately that'll lead to Baltimore winning, probably by a score of I could see it being 27-16. That's what I'm going to predict. 27-16. Yeah. I think Baltimore wins. And I also want to give credit to Baltimore's defense as well. I think that they have a solid defense. And I think Tua, who had success last week, will see a little bit less success this week.
All right. Before I get to my thoughts on the game, let me get to Anthony Finkel, and he goes with the Baltimore Ravens. Let me get to we'll get to the Saints and Bucks in a second because my friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment, who you can follow on Facebook at WCEHeat.com, want to pick the Saints over the Bucks. That'll be my next game. Don't worry about that to management. Also, want to give a plug to Wrestling Championship Entertainment because Blaze of Glory Part 2 is now up on their YouTube page, so you can certainly check that out. And we are now joined also, speaking of groups, by the Sports Authorities and Mr. John Gonzalez, and he likes here the Baltimore Ravens, and he also wants to take a jab at the brute force Brad Weiss. Are we talking to curtain yet?
We'll get to that. Right? We'll get to that. We'll talk about that.
How sweet it is. Bradley, isn't it? I'm going to go just to be different. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins because the Miami Dolphins have won 9 of their last 10 games. Tua, when he's in there, plays well. He's a good, again, I think we used the term last year, he's a good game manager. He doesn't do anything too silly out there, and Dolphins defense has looked pretty good these last several weeks. They've built on the momentum. I know it's the Patriots, and the Patriots aren't that great, but something tells me here Dolphins hang in there. I don't know if they win the game, but I will say Dolphins. I'll go Dolphins 21-20 on a field goal, and I'll go the under here just to be different here. And speaking of that, since Wrestling Championship Entertainment agrees with me, they say the Miami Dolphins win. So certainly, I our supporters for whatever reason. I hope I didn't convince them too much. But okay, fine. But let's go to a game that they wanted to pick. And that is the New Orleans Saints over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you know, guys, and the one kryptonite I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had in the regular season has actually been the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints and the Buccaneers. Buccaneers certainly, I guess, looked okay last Sunday. Probably one of the least impressive Sunday night openers I've seen in a while. But they are 2.5-point favorites against the Saints in New Orleans. 44 is the over-under. And I'm going to go you here, Chris, first. I mean, Bucs Saints. I mean, Bucs really weren't that impressive. And Saints, I guess, are kind of somewhere we kind of expect them to be maybe in the middle of things here in this NFC, at least for a wild card spot. And what do you think happens here?
Yeah, you know what? The Saints have really been their problem the last couple of years. So I'm going to go with the Saints. I think, you know, with Tom Brady having all the issues he's having off the field, I think Godwin's not playing this week either. But Kamara's not playing, I don't think, for the Saints. So maybe that kind of evens it out. But I'm going to go with the Saints. I think they're going to beat them. They've had their number the last couple of years. Like you said, Tampa, I mean, they won the game. They didn't blow them out. You know,
Brady wasn't even that great last Sunday.
Yeah, it wasn't
memorable.
Yeah, it was kind of a boring game, actually. I'll take the Saints winning, I don't know, 24-20.
All right. That sounds reasonable there. Fair enough. For you, Billy, Bucs and Saints, again, both teams 1-0, and certainly Bucs didn't look too impressive. Saints pulled out a last-second win. Saints 2.5-point underdogs at home. 44.5 is the over/under. And what do you think happens here, Billy?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to take an opposite opinion, Chris. I think, you know, Tom Brady's seen the stories about his personal life being in the media. You know, he had a kind of an unimpressive week last week. This is like a classic Tom Brady goes out and put up huge numbers and like carries the team to win. I'm taking the Bucs by a fairly big number here. I think probably, you know, 10 points probably is going to be my kind of where I think the Bucs end up winning. I think the Bucs win handily. And I'm sorry, what was the over/under again on this game? I can't remember.
44.
44. Ooh.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'm gonna go over on the over/under. I think this could kind of be because I think Jameis can keep up with the Buccaneers. You know, passing wise, he's gonna throw the ball around. He's also going to throw a pick six because that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately you see the over hit.
All right, fair enough. And for you, Justin, Bucs and Saints, Bucs 2.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the over/under. And what do you think?
Yeah, it's somewhat mystifying as to why Tom Brady has struggled in these 2 years with the Buccaneers against the Saints. You know, it just, you know, the first year obviously was the classic Hall of Fame battle between Brady and Breeze. You know, and then last year, at least Winston started the first game. I don't remember who started the second one. Might have been Taysom Hill, Ian Book, one of those backups that ended up coming in for New Orleans. But they're going to have a good defense. I wouldn't touch this over/under. I lean more towards the under in this game. I think it's going to be a good defensive battle. You know, I think Levante David could really wreak havoc. And, you know, Kamara may not play. It's a rib issue. You know, Winston's banged up too. Both teams are really banged up, you know, already. And, you know, I'm gonna take the Bucs here. But I think it's gonna be I think it'll be a pretty close one.
All right, and before I get to the Brute Force Brad Weiss, I did want to update everybody here, but thank you, Justin, for this. And Justin was kind of my crack staff for this. And Albert Pujols hit his 698th home run, so looks like he's got a really good chance to maybe break that history without kind of the wiffle ball and the underhand tosses. He may just get to 700, and that's that. And before I get to John Gonzalez, Anthony Finkel, and Wrestling Championship Entertainment Management for their thoughts on the game, the Brute Force Brad White. This is such an interesting matchup. I'm thinking about your mother and Tom Brady, and certainly Brady really not the most impressive performance there. And I know that in the Weiss household how much they value Tom Brady. And what do you think here, though? This is to me such an intriguing matchup. And the Bucs are 2.5-point favorites. Both teams are 1-0, but the Saints have pretty much done pretty well against the Bucs in the regular season these last 2 years. And 44.5 is the over/under. And what do you think?
Yeah, well, this is a very difficult game because this is the thing that people want to ignore, by the way, because there's a lot of people that are high on the Saints right now. But have we forgotten that they barely scratched out a win against the dumbest team last week? They actually should have lost the game. They were down 26-10 in the fourth quarter to the dumbest team. And by the way, the reason why I'm pissed at that is because my record would have been better if the dumbest team.
It's all about you. As Tupac famously said, it's all about you, the Brute Force. It's all about you.
That's all it's about.
Oh, my God. I mean, the dumbest team should have won the damn game, and they blew it like they always do. They always find a way. And the fact that they found a way to do it when they were up by 16 in the damn fourth quarter is an embarrassment. But to that point, the Saints were on the losing side of that game for most of the game. Against a team that's not very good. So I think that the Saints will not play at the level that they did at the end of the game against the dumbest team. And this is a perfect setup for, again, and I want to make sure we clarify Tom Bryce. Tom Brady is not beloved in this household, just beloved by one person, my mother. Okay?
That's like the most important person in the household, though.
I know, but not anybody else. I want to make sure that's clear. All right, because Tom Brady obviously has ruined half of my childhood as a Patriot. But anyway, listen, when I go to this, I know, and I've done this in the past, Tom Bryce, not to pick against Tom Brady when all things are.
I know. We spoke about this on the air over the past 3 years.
You just can't do it. I mean, everyone's talking about the record in the regular season against the Saints. Everyone's talking about all the injuries. Everybody's talking about who's he going to throw it to, right? And whenever we do this, right, Tom Brady always finds a way every single time to prove me wrong when I pick against him in these situations. So I'm not going to do it this time. I think Tom Brady's going to do enough. I think, as Billy McInerney said, Jameis Winston will throw a few interceptions this week. Although I am very happy, by the way, since I'm a Michael Thomas fantasy owner, to see him and Michael Thomas playing well with each other. I think that's going to help my fantasy season, also help the Saints. So certainly I see them hooking up a few times, but a few times is not enough against the Buccaneers this week. I see like a 30-20 game that the Buccaneers do win.
Fair enough. Let me get to John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group and certainly join his group. He's going with the New Orleans Saints. Anthony Finkel says going with the Bucs, Brady farewell tour. And Wrestling Championship Entertainment says they're underestimating the Bucs a little bit, but they feel like the Saints may want revenge for last year. And they also agree with you that he is the greatest of all time. And he's certainly 45 years old. Obviously, he's got every single record imaginary. I'm going to go with the Bucs, but I don't think it's going to be an explosive game. I think it's like going to be 17-14. I'm going to say 17-14 Bucs. One of those kind of similar games to the way they played last week. I don't really like
either offense.
No, that's why I don't think that I'm that impressed right now with the Buccaneers and the Saints. So I am going to go the under, and I'm going to say Bucs do pull it out here. Let's go to another game because John Gonzalez did bring them up. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin finds a way yet again. Everybody doubts those Steelers, and just for you, John Gonzalez, I'm going straight to the jugular. 105 matchup, Patriots and Steelers. Steelers home opener, and oddly enough, Patriots are 2-point favorites here. Pittsburgh, the home team, though, 40 is the over-under here. And I'm going to go with you, Chris. This is another one of those like really, really dangerous games to pick. I think if you were a handicapper, I'm sure Justin would probably have more insight on it than I would because I admittedly am not a better. But what do you think here? Because, again, Steelers find a way to win, and everybody doubts them, and the Patriots didn't look too impressive in their own right. And what do you think here for this 105 matchup between the Patriots and Steelers? Steelers at home opener, new name of the field, and New England, though, is 2-point favorites, and 40 is the over-under.
Yeah, I like Pittsburgh. I don't know what the Patriots are doing, especially on offense. They look totally, I don't want to say lost, but I'm still amazed. Like, okay, McDaniel leaves. I know that probably surprised them with him leaving, but they should have got a little more settled at the offensive coordinator position. You know, I just think bringing in Patricia and Joe Judge to run the offense, to me, that made no sense.
Well, the retread coaches that couldn't, when they were other systems, couldn't do anything.
And you know, you got a second-year quarterback. You know, I don't understand why, you know, with Mac Jones. I don't know why they did that. So I don't know. I think they're going to struggle all year. I don't see them going to the playoffs this year. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is going to win by at least a touchdown. So
yeah, I could definitely
28-20.
I could definitely see that for sure. And certainly, for you, Billy, again, such an interesting matchup here. And this is usually an 8:25 Sunday night game, but it's a 105 matchup here. Patriots, I don't know what to make of them right now. Steelers, a lot of people don't know what to make of them, but I do think it was a gutty win for them. Certainly a wild game there that went to overtime. And what do you think here? Steelers home opener. They are 2-point underdogs, though, and 40 is the over-under. What do you think?
It's first of all just a quick question because I don't remember. Are we picking straight up or against the spread?
Either or. I think you can pick whatever you want. I don't really.
It hasn't affected the first. It's not going to affect this one either. The Patriots looked lost last week. I mean, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge obviously failed head coaches. Neither of them have an offensive background, so I have no clue what's going on there. And Bill Belichick does not sound like Bill Belichick in press conferences. He sounds like he's looking for answers, and he sounds like he's not finding them. I have no confidence in the Patriots. I'm taking the Steelers to win and to cover, and I'm taking the under. I think this is going to be like this is like a 17-0, 17-3 kind of game to me. I don't think it's going to be particularly close, but I don't think the Steelers offense is going to make a whole lot of noise, but the Patriots offense is going to do absolutely nothing.
And for you, Justin, again, Patriots, Steelers, such an intriguing matchup. Obviously, you think about the last quarter century. These are two of the premier teams in the sport of the NFL, and wouldn't quite say they're at their premier levels right now, but somebody has to come away with the win. It's the Steelers home opener. New England is 2-point favorites here. 40 is the over-under, and what do you think?
Before I get to my friend Mike Tomlin here, we're gonna go out and say that we got a live dog right here. An absolute live dog at home. I don't quite understand why New England's 2 points favorites in this game. So with that, Coach Tomlin, please take it away. Well, one thing I take comfort in is that when my players are under pressure, they do not urinate down their leg. I find comfort in the fact that we respond to pressure situations. I feel like my players are always ready for any situation. The Steelers are ready for their home opener. They're 100% going to go out there. Their defense is going to shut down Mac Jones. Mac Jones isn't even 100% healthy. He's got a back issue. Plus, he apparently was sick all week. This New England offense is an absolute joke. I just don't see how they would score against that Pittsburgh defense. And Pittsburgh's defense, remember, they took the ball away from Joe Burrow 5 times. And look, I understand Mitch Trubisky ain't great, and he did just enough to win the game, but they ain't going to have to do much to beat the New England Patriots. I mean, if Joe Burrow could throw 4 interceptions, Mac Jones is easily capable of throwing 4 interceptions against this Pittsburgh defense. I understand that TJ Watt got hurt, and that's going to be a significant loss. But, again, players step up. Players always respond and rise to the occasion under Mike Tomlin. There's a reason why he is one of the best coaches in all of football. And I'm going to trust, and I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
And before I get to the Brute Force, Brad Weiss and Anthony Finkel will appreciate this here because one of our friends, a poser, Jamie Sanders, is in the Dominican Republic, and he posted a photo to us here in our group about fish sticks because he had fish sticks at Duffy's. He has to be the biggest poser that have ever gone to Duffy's and had fish sticks. He's the only person in the entire 40-year history of that bar to have fish sticks. So Jamie Sanders, by rights, I am now saying you are never coming back to Duffy's again. I'm going to actually let the owner know tomorrow about the fact. Even the waitress even said when he was served it, you're like the only person that's ever ordered fish sticks. So Jamie Sanders, you are officially a poser. But before we get to everybody else here and their thoughts on the Steelers game, like John Gonzalez, Finkel himself, and the management from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, I am going right to you, the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, because you know what? You have been so hard on these Pittsburgh Steelers, and they just beat the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals on the road. They get no respect here. Rodney Dangerfield-esque, no respect here. The New England Patriots, help me out and figure out why they are 2-point favorites on the road here. 40 is the over-under, and what do you think? Because I'm expecting you, the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers walking away.
You know why the Patriots are 2-point favorite, 2.5-point favorites, whatever it is? Because they're going to win. That's why. The Patriots are going to beat the Steelers.
And he froze because clearly he's backed it up with no facts. I mean,
what happens when you don't. See what happens when you don't pick the Pittsburgh Steelers. You urinate down your leg and you fold.
I just don't This is one of the more bizarre spreads here. Pittsburgh beats the Bengals on the road.
I thought you said Pittsburgh was the 2-point favorites when we were like starting this off. Like, I don't know.
This is bizarre.
Well, no, Billy, that's why I started my thing by saying we have a live dog.
That's when I realized that there's like, oh,
let me, while I'm waiting for the brute force Brad Weiss to come back, John Gonzalez, he's going with the Steelers. That I know. Wrestling Championship Entertainment Management says, I have to take the Steelers on this one. Their defense is ruthless. Anthony Finkel is going with the Steelers. John Gonzalez wants a congratulations in order. Let's hear it. Well, we wanted to, but he left. And Carlos Arturo Chavez says Steelers will win. And I'm going to go and say Pittsburgh 20, New England 7, because I have the feeling here that Pittsburgh's going to come out here and they're just going to be motivated. They've got some momentum.
See how New England generates offense. You know, Mac Jones played so poorly last week, and the name.
He didn't exactly play.
The name escapes me, but the top running back is now missing. It's going to go to Ramondre Stevenson now. So New England's, I just don't like their offense. I don't like the game planning that Matt Patricia and Joe Judge had in the first game. And people will realize Mac Jones is not that good.
Well, we're going to find out from the Brute Force Brad Weiss, who is back with us here. So I'm waiting for it here, the Brute Force. Steelers, Patriots, going to ask you one more time. Help me understand why the New England Patriots are favorites on the road after the Pittsburgh Steelers had just beat the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals on their home field. Let's say you.
I'll say it again, and it better not cut me off again. I was excited to say it. I'm smiling and excited because everyone's going against me. This is the perfect game I want. All right. The Patriots are favored because the Patriots are going to win. All right. They're going to win this game. All right. Everybody is going to say, oh, well, the Steelers beat the Bengals last. The Steelers got lucky last week that they beat the Bengals.
They beat the Bengals, the AFC champions.
Let me talk here. All right. Joe Burrow played one of the worst games of his damn life, and they still should have lost last week. All right. If the kick was not missed at the end of the game, they still should have lost. Okay. Then you consider that Watt is out. Then you consider that Najee Harris is not even healthy. Then you consider that Mitchell Trubisky is still the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. And all these different things. And they're just simply still the team that I'm not going to come on here and give them a round of applause that they won. Good job, guys. Good job. They got lucky last week that Cincinnati played so damn bad. And Cincinnati still should have won the game even when they played bad. That is an indictment on the Steelers because they should have lost that game even when the Bengals played just as bad as they could have, right? And even still should have won the game. So I'm going to say that. And this week against the Patriots, I'm not that confident in the Patriots. Listen, they didn't look good last week, and I'm ready to never pick them again if they lose this game. But ultimately, I think they'll do just enough in this game to win. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, without their best, arguably their two best skilled players in Harris and Watt, and even if
Harris is playing, he's good to go.
And even if he plays, he's not 100% healthy. So I'm still not taking him as being that good in this game. And the whole game plan is going to be to stop him. And I think the Steelers, the Patriots, we can't forget who the coach is of the Patriots. I'm going to use the same line as I did with Tom Brady, basically saying that Bill Belichick, when everything starts to go against him, he comes through. And he's going to do it this time against a team that does not deserve enough credit, does not deserve the credit that they have gotten this week in the Pittsburgh Steelers. So John Gonzalez, you could get at me right now.
But here's the big difference. Here's the big difference between what you're saying about Tom Brady and what you're saying about Bill Belichick. Tom Brady can control what happens in the game. Bill Belichick can't play for his players. And I'm sorry, that roster is not good. I mean, if you there was a tweet a few weeks ago about the number of draft picks since 2018 that they have either released or traded because it's just been god awful. And then you go look at who his assistants are. I'm sorry. And you know what? I don't mind being lucky. If there's a W in my win column, That's all that matters. There's only 17 games. I'll take that W. I don't care if I play garbage. If I get that W, I get that W.
And the Steelers should be happy. They should be having a party.
All right, so I got all that. Let me get to comments because I got Rob Morosco on here, and I do got to get to baseball. So let me get one more game in. Let me get comments because I know he's waiting here. So let me first read them off here. Mac is no bueno, no good. Of course, the Brood froze. He's going into the witness protection program after picking the Pats. Patriots quit playing after the first quarter of the Dolphins game. I'm surprised they remembered to put on their uniforms. All right, so let's pick one more game, and then we'll come back to some other games here. Another game I want to go to, and to me it's kind of a bizarre spread here, and that's the Seahawks and the 49ers. 49ers, 8.5-point favorites here at home. Seahawks, listen, another former Jet quarterback gets a win here in Geno Smith, and certainly let's bring this game up because I'm sure it's going to pinch the nerves at some of us here. But Chris, Seahawks, 49ers, 8.5-point favorites, yet it's the Seahawks that won and the 49ers that didn't, and it's 41 is the over-under. And what do you think here?
San Fran's got to win. I can't see the Seahawks winning. That was just a rough game, the Monday night game. I'm going to say the 49ers will figure it out. So I'm going to say they're going to win and they're going to cover. It's not going to be pretty, but the 49er defense is going to shut down the Seahawks and Geno Smith. Geno just played good enough just to win. It's not going to happen this week. I'll say 24-10. They'll win. San Fran.
I could see that. For you, Justin, Seahawks, 49ers. Seahawks get a big win on Monday night. 49ers lose a game to the Bears. Seahawks are 8.5-point underdogs here. 41 is the over-under, and what do you think?
Yeah, kind of like the Dolphins. The Seahawks didn't do much in the second half. The only difference is, Denver made a rally, and Denver was able to score some points, but Seattle was able to hold off. I don't like the spread at all. I'm certainly taking the Seattle Seahawks with the spread, but I do think the 49ers win this game. I don't like Trey Lance as a quarterback. I think the biggest mistake that the 49ers did was drafting him third overall. I understand now why they're playing him and they were trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, but I mean they should have never forced that issue. Jimmy Garoppolo, despite his injury history, is just a solid quarterback, and it felt like they just tried to push him to the side. They drafted Trey Lance third overall, and now they got to play Lance because they pretty much sat him last year, except for a couple of games. And, now they have to justify why they picked him third. And I just don't think Trey Lance is that good. He's raw. He didn't play 2020, the COVID year. And then last year he sat on the bench. So he really hasn't played a full season of competitive football since 2019. And I think that's dangerous. But in terms of this game, I think they'll be able to get enough in the ground game. You should see Deebo Samuel a little bit more involved in the run game because Elijah Mitchell is going to be out for the next 2 months. So it'll look to see Jeff Wilson get most of the carries, but you'll look for them to utilize Deebo Samuel in a couple of different ways, and and maybe get Trey Lance on, in some play action and some option plays to get him on his feet because, I just don't trust him in the passing game. So I hate the 8.5-point spread. I think that's way too high. I think Seattle's going to be a little bit more competitive, and you know what? It was another game that speaks to why Pete Carroll's such a good head coach, because and we didn't even really go over this, but what was Nathaniel Hackett doing at the end of that game? I mean, with the absolute brutal decision making of of having the 4th and 5 with about a minute to go, letting 30 seconds burn off the clock, call timeout, and settle for a long 64-yard field goal when you just traded for Russell Wilson and you had an easy opportunity to convert on 4th down. There's plenty of plays in the playbook for 4th and 5. So Nathaniel Hackett absolutely vomited all over himself in that situation. And Pete Carroll is a guy who's going to be measured, keeps keeps his team in the game, and keeps his players inspired. And so I think Seattle will hang around, but I think ultimately San Francisco wins.
All right, so let's try to move to this game shotgun because I got Rob Maraska winning. Then we'll come back to baseball. To the NFL in a little while. Billy, Seahawks, 49ers. Seahawks, to me, I do feel a little bit disrespected on this spread. And what do you think here? And San Francisco is 8.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 41.
Yeah, I think Trey Lance has the tools. I think he's got the arm talent. He's got the athleticism. But he's very raw. Just said he's not ready for prime time yet. Fortunately for the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks are not prime time. They are not that good of a team. They're going to cover. The Seahawks are absolutely going to cover the spread. 8.5 points is ridiculous. But I do think the 49ers win. I like the under in this game. I think Pete Carroll still has enough defensive juice to scheme up and slow down the 49ers enough, and Trey Lance isn't that guy yet where he's going to blow up in this game. I think this is going to be like, 20-14, 20-17, something in that range, I think you're going to see the run game used heavily by both teams. I don't think you're going to see a high-scoring thing. And so, yeah, I got the Niners winning, but the Seahawks covering the spread fairly comfortably, actually. I don't think it's going to be more than a touchdown difference between these two teams.
All right, before I get to several other comments on the game, I want to come to the Brew Force Barriers because I don't really know where to go on this game, so I'm actually just going to follow your lead on this one because I really don't know what to make of these two teams at all. San Francisco, again, can never figure them out here early in the season. Seahawks, again, nobody saw them get a win the way they did Monday night. Geno Smith, kind of typical our luck, but you know what? Maybe to Justin's point, Pete Carroll is a really good coach, and he's been a champion in college and the NFL, and maybe there's something to that. And what do you think here? I do think, though, that the 49ers being 8.5-point favorites seems to be a little bit high right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a stretch. But I actually, to tell you what I actually did pick the 49ers with the spread, too. I do think that this game is going to be like 24-14. That's my prediction. Mm-hmm. So I see it being a 10-point game. If it's a 10-point game, then obviously the 49ers win that spread there. But I'm with the guys on the pick. The 49ers are going to win. Another game last week that I can't really judge too much because they were in a mudslide water park field. You really can't judge that. So I do think, even though I'm still concerned about Trey Lance, that in the warmer climates of San Francisco, he will do better. And I think another guy who will show up this week, whether it's running or throwing, is going to be Deebo Samuel. I think he becomes that dual threat that we all know him to be. He'll get the short passes. He'll run them and he'll make plays happen for the 49ers. And I think that'll help them win this game. And then obviously Geno Smith, another guy who got pretty lucky last week, will come back to earth a little bit. And I think that's why the 49ers will win.
All right. So I'll say here, San Francisco 24, Seattle 14. I just kind of following your lead, the Brute Force, because I do kind of still think San Francisco should be at the very least a playoff team or in the mix. And we'll see here from John Gonzalez. He goes to 49ers. Carlos says 49ers win, and if they don't, Shanahan is on the hot seat. Maybe. It would certainly be a slow start. Would not be good for them at all. 49ers from Anthony Finkel. John Gonzalez says Lance is a hot mess, but the 49ers will win. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Take the under. I definitely agree with that. Porn star Jimmy, he's a winner. Jimmy G cannot run the Shanahan system, but he won though. He got
He's
to
a winner.
Super Bowl.
Jimmy G's a winner.
Right. He won. He got to an NFC Championship game and won an NFC Championship.
Where he succeeded the most.
He is not mobile enough, and that irritates Shanahan because the NFL is a copycat league, and this junk system that Jimmy G was not.
Mac Jones, he's not mobile either.
And also here, want to get to one update now that I have Rob Morosky here, so I'll come back to the NFL in a little while. But Braves win here 7-2. Mets lead is now still at 1. Phillies give up 6 in the 8th, so maybe the Brew Force was onto something because it is back-to-back losses for the Phillies. But I do think that the Padres have done themselves enough favors that the Phillies should still make the playoffs. But Rob Morosky, obviously you're here with us.
Aren't that far back either.
Yeah, but somebody has to make it between the Phillies, the Padres, and the Brewers. That's why I still think ultimately the Phillies will make it. The Padres are the team I kind of feel like is wobbly, but
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
You know
we'll get into the
you know
Yankees.
what? While we talk baseball, that's another team that's I'm ready to rip, because another team that just disappointed with all these expectations.
They're going to be lucky if they make the playoffs at this point. Rob Maraska, obviously, you're here with us, and that means we'll talk some baseball a little bit here. New York Mets. Mets hang on there and get a win. They've won a couple of games in a row here now. And give me your impressions now of this Met team, as now we'll talk some Mets and Yankees and mix in maybe some Pulos and Judge for the next little while.
Yeah, well, they're starting to hit. They're starting to hit again after that disastrous series against the Cubs, which was just ridiculous. I don't understand what I don't know what happened in that series. They just weren't hitting. I mean, it was horrible. But now they're doing what they're supposed to do against the Pirates. We've said, for the past couple of weeks that the Mets have the easiest schedule, and man, they haven't been making it easy. The Braves scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th tonight, so the Phillies did choke. And I don't know. I don't know if the Phillies are going to make it. You think the Phillies are going to make the postseason? I don't know if they're going to make it yet.
Well, we'll find out here, and certainly, Billy, Mets have won a couple in a row here. Maybe have made things a little bit better in terms of how people feel about the team right now. But Braves do keep up, and certainly, Mets haven't really done themselves the favors here, despite the easy schedule here. And what do you make of the team right now these last couple days?
Yeah, I mean, look, that Cubs series was an atrocity. They were gifted an opportunity to put some space between them and the Braves, and they didn't take it. You got to move on. You're still in first place. You've won 2 straight against the Pirates, which is a good start. Unfortunately, this season's going to come down to that Braves series. There's no way around it. I don't see them as putting the kind of distance between them where they're going to be able to play that series. It doesn't matter. They're going to the playoffs either way. So I'm not.
Yeah, 91 wins. They're making the playoffs. They've lost every game. I think they still make the wild card.
Yeah, I think the magic number is like 7 now to clinch the playoffs by after tonight. So it's they're making the playoffs. So you want to win the division. I think it's hugely important to win the division. For no reason to avoid the Dodgers till a championship series. But I mean, look, it's going to be a fight at the end. I think we all knew the Braves weren't going to just lay down and let the Mets take the division. I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed how they played against the Cubs, and even going back to last year's with the Pirates, they should have swept that series. But look, I'm not gonna do like the sky is falling while we're in first place. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not gonna say it's all over. I mean, they're on pace to win 100-something games. It's gonna be a successful season no matter what. They're playoff bound. They're playing meaningful baseball in September. And they're gonna. I still think they're gonna end up winning the division. I'm still confident that they'll do that. I don't think they're gonna run away with the way I was hoping they would a few weeks ago. But I don't think there's any reason to hit the panic button just yet. They've bounced back. They've recovered. They've looked like the better team and like clearly the better team the last couple of games. Pirates. I think that Cubs series is a little bit of wake up call. I think they got a little. We're getting into the easy part of our schedule. We can sleepwalk through these next 2 weeks and get ready for the Braves. And the Cubs woke them up from that, and I think that might be a good thing for this team.
Oh, it better be. Listen, they better, at the bare minimum, split the next 2, but really win the next 2. And I got a feeling Justin is going to be just as vocal as he was about the Jets here with the Mets. But the Mets do win a couple games in a row, so maybe you got to give them due with that. But, I mean, how's your feelings with this team from last week to this week here, Justin?
It's not exactly going to let them off the hook. They might have won the last 2 against the Pirates. I'm not exactly going to let them off the hook for getting swept by the Cubs. I mean, that's absolutely unacceptable. It's just unacceptable how they just showed no life at all in the series. And you know who I blame more than anything? I blame the fans. You know what? I
heard that on the radio.
I was there on Wednesday, and and granted, I got there fairly early. I got there at around I would say maybe 5:30. And the parking lot was fairly empty. and come in to the gates. First pitch is thrown, and they announced 28,000 and change. There was no more than 18 at that game. It was such a light crowd, and Anthony DiComo from MLB.com had the tweet again tonight. Less than 30,000 on a Friday night. I get school's back in session, but this team's in first place. You don't see the Dodgers or Giants having problems with attendance. You don't see the Cardinals having problems with attendance. Hell, you don't see the Yankees having problems with attendance. I mean, it's embarrassing. You know what? The Mets played down to the low energy because the bad trend that the Mets have set is that they're falling behind in these games and they're not coming back like they used to. I mean, obviously, David Peterson completely put you out of that game early. But, Trevor Williams, despite giving up a couple of hits right off the bat and, the last of the 6 runs, the bullpen shut the door. And the Mets had 9 innings. They had 27 outs to work with and could only muster up 3 lousy runs. And they mustered up, I think, six runs the entire 3-game series against the Cubs.
Anemic.
Absolutely unacceptable. And this after coming off, the big weekend where they finished off after the frustrating loss. And all right, so frustrating loss. You lose Friday in Miami, whatever. But you win the next 2. You do it convincingly. And then you have that performance, that putrid performance. But it's just mind-boggling that the Mets are struggling for attendance in September when they're in first place. This team is now 91-55. This is one of the best seasons in history. It's potentially going to be just the 4th time in franchise history, and I think they do. I do think they end up getting there. It could be the 4th time for 100 wins in a season. What's going on? I'm going to be there the next 2 days, and I know it's the weekend, but that place better be packed. I don't want to see 35,000. I want to see 40 plus tomorrow. I mean, it's absolutely inexcusable. I don't care that's the Pittsburgh Pirates. You don't go to Citi Field to see the Pittsburgh Pirates. You go there because you're a Mets fan. You're there to cheer your team.
All right, well, let me get to a bunch of comments here before I get to Chris. I want to get to the Yankees take because I do want to spend a few minutes on them. And Carlos says here that Cubs have nothing to lose. Let their young guys play. Give Cubs credit for playing baseball, not worrying about the media. Cubs and A's have good talent coming up, and these guys will make the last games interesting for whoever they play. Our old friend Ron Laird, of course, love Ron Laird, of course, my guy with the Columbia Fireflies now, the Kansas City Royals system there, even after the Cubs series still in first place. Now, he's also a huge Bucks fan as well. And Carlos says, I got to my seat on Wednesday. It was 6-0 before I even got to my seat. He said, Mets demographic is New Jersey and Long Island. They don't have a good crowd in Queens. That's a problem they cannot fix. Other teams' local demographic supports their teams. I mean, I would say the Mets.
He's not wrong. I mean, growing up in New Jersey, it was a pain in the ass to get to Queens. And yes, like I drive from Long Island or take the train from Long Island. It's an easier access for sure. But I mean, what bothered me the most in this series was not Tuesday night's game. All right. Chris Bassett stunk. It happens. And I actually think this kid, Javier Assad, the kid who pitched Tuesday for the Cubs, actually is a legit shot at a good future in the major leagues. I think he's got really good stuff. But getting shut down by Adrian Sampson, getting shut down by Drew, for the most part, by Drew Smiley, those are things that are just absolutely unacceptable. They didn't really do much tonight offensively against Mitch Keller. But Mitch Keller, I think, is going to be a real good major leaguer. And Walker was great tonight. So and the offense hit well last night. So you felt good about last night. It's just getting shut down by these randos that are not future major leaguers. Again, Javier Assad is a rookie who had a sub 3 ERA coming in. And Mitch Keller on a good run. Those are guys who are going to be legit major league pitchers. But other than that, I mean, there's certain guys. You can't accept getting shut down to.
And Ron Laird says he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, which I know. I think that was my reference there. And Carlos says if you watch the game, the Mets still had 13 strikeouts and the losses. But Chris, Yankees obviously had a 5-0 lead early. It is 5-5 now, but I do kind of feel like in a way that the Yankees have kind of, at least for now, gotten past some of the things that we spoke about, and I think the team has put together a better 10 or 11 days. Lineups looked a little bit better. Guys have come back in. Obviously, Judge, we'll get into Judge as well, and you feel a little bit better about this team right now that they've at least put a little bit more distance between themselves with Tampa and Toronto and seem like that they're back in control in the American League East. What's your thoughts on the Yankees in the last week?
Yeah, it was definitely a big series against Tampa to take 2 out of 3, to kind of give them a little bit of breathing room. And within the next week or two, you're going to see a lot more guys come back. Rizzo is practicing today, so he should be back tomorrow or the next day. You're going to see Beta make his appearance finally next week.
And Attendee's not too far away as well. Severino is on the way, it looks like, as well. I saw.
Efris is coming back for the bullpen. Chapman came back, I think, tonight. Not that we want him back, but DJ LeMahieu is going to come back. So, to me, listen, I said it from the beginning, even when they were playing great and all that, I still thought that they would still lose in the ALCS to the Astros. The Astros are just a better team. Simple as that. They got the, just as good or better pitching, and their lineup is going to hit in the playoffs. And ours, sadly, is probably going to be quiet again in the playoffs. That's what I'm afraid that's going to happen. I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong, but I still see that that's going to happen. And just to kind of flip over to the Mets for a second,
sure.
To me, I wouldn't be worried. To me, it's going to come down to that series against the Braves.
Which is what I've been saying for 3 months. I've said it for 3 months.
You know what people weren't talking enough about because everybody was so focused on the race between the Mets and the Braves. The fact that the Mets and the Braves both went on their slide at the same time. Now, with the Cardinals losing yesterday, that kind of pushed it back a little bit more. But the Cardinals were catching up with the number 2 seed. They really were. The Cardinals have been on a really strong run, and they're tied tonight 5-5. But, the Cardinals are a team you have to watch, too, because if you slide a little bit, next thing you know, you might still win the division, but you're playing in the wild card. The whole point is to avoid the wild card series. So,
right.
The number 2 seed is super imperative. As of now, you'd play, I believe it would be the Cardinals right now the Padres own the last wild card spot. So that's who the Mets would see.
You got a 5-game lead? You should be good against St. Louis, right?
I happened, but you're right. But the Cardinals had been winning baseball games, and the Mets weren't. The Mets just got swept.
The Cardinals have had a good.
The Braves won't do themselves any favor.
I think it's going to come down to that series against Atlanta, and then listen. After that series, if you still got the lead, I think I think you'll coast to the end. You'll get the number 2 seed. And you just sit back and wait for that. Whoever comes,
Yeah, the Braves have 3 with Miami, while the Mets have 3 with Washington to finish the season. And of course, with the Braves, there's every chance to see Lopez and Alcantara, and that's no easy task. And the Mets.
All right, let me get to a bunch of comments because I'm a little behind, and I got to get to the Brute Force because I got to get into some other topics. So let me get to Aunt Laura. She says, could it be the cost of tickets? Maybe. There's also a tough economy right now. I do think that plays into it. I mean, right now, that's a different topic, though, for a different time. Williams did great for the Mets, but no run support is a burn.
Terrific.
The Mets' injuries have caught up with them. That depth was cut into, so now the team is burning a candle in both ends. This is something you cannot plan for, so Buck had no answers. Yeah. Carlos also goes on about it's not the cost of baseball in Queens. It's about the demographics who don't follow baseball. I got all that. I've got about the fans. I got all that. But I want to come to the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, before I go back to these other guys, because I want to ask you this in a different way, just like how I asked the football questions with you, because I think in a lot of ways that actually the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, you know this because you played at SJC and you were in this role. I actually think right now for the Mets, playing the teams like the Nationals, the Marlins, the Pirates, these are tougher teams than playing in a way the Phillies and the Braves, because these teams are spoilers. Their season right now is going to be made on, maybe I can spoil the Mets from having a home playoff series or a bye or just not having them win the division. There's teams like this that have nothing to play for. And you know what? They've played the Mets tough. And I think the Brute Force, you've been in this role before at SJC late in the year, your last year. You guys were a spoiler, Farmingdale, Yeshiva, and you were more times than not, unfortunately, in this role at SJC. And talk to me about that, because I actually think right now for the Mets, it's a lot tougher to play these teams like the Marlins, the Pirates, the Cubs, the Nationals than it's going to be than the Braves and Phillies. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a valid point to that because, and Carlos said it and I said it last week, is the teams have nothing to lose. And they simply are just going to play hard. And they're also playing for their baseball lives. I mean, some of them might not even be in the majors next year. Some of them might not even be on the roster next year. So they're trying to prove themselves to stay on the team or to make another team next year and stay in the major leagues. So that means a lot to a lot of these guys. And also what you just said, Tom, I mean, if you're the Marlins, you're the Nationals, right? You want to, put a dent in the Mets season and maybe make them a wild card team and be those bad guys. The Cubs, I mean, guess who's in the dugout for the Cubs? Marcus Stroman. Don't you think he wants to see the Mets kind of maybe struggle a little bit and wanted the Cubs to assert themselves to beat the Mets? Sure, there was probably some of that. So I think that, first of all, you got to give the Cubs some credit for the way that they played. But like Justin said, there's no excuse to get swept by the Cubs. But the one thing I'll say on the Mets part is that, teams have this where they do get swept, and the Mets haven't gotten swept all year. It's the first time they got swept. So it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it didn't happen at a great time, because if you had won at least one or two of the games, you would have given yourself a little bit more breathing room with the Braves, because they actually struggled on their road trips. So it definitely hurts, but at the same time, listen, you got to give credit to some of these guys who pitched against the Mets. You got to give credit to the way that they made plays. I mean, the Cubs made plays. You saw, a lot of these weaker teams, right, seem to not make plays because they're weaker teams, but the Cubs made the plays. They did their job, and they won all 3 games. So you got to give them credit. And the other thing is, which goes to all these points, Tom, and your point about how it might be harder to play these teams, when you play the tougher teams, the Mets clearly step up their energy level and step up their will to win and want to win, because the competition is higher. So they step up to the competition. It's very easy when the competition is low, especially for a consistent period of time, which it has been now, where you're playing the Marlins, the Pirates, the Cubs. Like, you're not playing any of the competitive teams for the most part, right? To kind of play down to your competition or not come up to the level of the competition, because you're kind of just satisfied with thinking you can get through the weaker teams. So I'm not accusing the Mets of that. What I'm saying is that it's not as easy of a road as most people would think it is, especially like you said, as a guy myself who's been on the side of the villain, of the team that struggled, of the team that's had nothing to lose, that simply wants to just take something, some sort of positive into the next season, right? They want to take something into the next season. The coach of the team, I mean, I've been on that trail too. The coach of the team wants to prove he could keep his job for the next season. So there's a lot of different things that go through that. And it's not as easy as we all think that the Mets could just win these games. And they're learning that the hard way. But right now, at least they won these first 2 games with the Pirates. And I think that they really need to take these next 2 games with the Pirates. And we'll see what happens going forward. But they're still in first place. There's no need to panic. They're not playing bad baseball. They're just playing inconsistent baseball. There's a difference. All right. The inconsistent.
Yeah, no, they haven't played. Listen, they haven't played terrible. It hasn't been like where the Yankees had that horrific stretch for about 40 some odd games. It's just that they've had, like you said, inconsistent and some untimely losses. And again, the Mets have played okay even in the month. I believe they're right around 500 for the month of September, so it's not as if they've totally collapsed here. And let me get to a bunch of comments before I circle back. And Joe Dell says Brewers and Braves need to fall to the Mets. Well, the Brewers are playing the Yankees, so that would be one point to that. Guillorme coming back is a huge boost when the roster is missing Marte. Yeah, I do think in a way Guillorme helps the team a little bit. So I would agree with you, and I think the Mets will get the guys back.
Was playing right field tonight, made some incredible plays.
Yeah, so I kind of agree there on that. And you guys watch out. You might see some of these guys on the Yankees and Mets. They have a ton of talent in these clubs. Mets injuries busted that rotation. That's really tough as well. Brad Weiss is the spoiler. No, Anthony Finkel. It's Jamie Sanders who's the spoiler, because Jamie Sanders is the poser, and we already spoke about that. and the Pirates can still snag a game, so the Mets need to play hard and keep going. Absolutely. There's no question that it's Major League Baseball. Anything can happen. Listen, the brute force.
Hey, look. Hey, now it's on Chris Bassett tomorrow. He's got to bounce back from Monday's disaster. And you know what? Jacob deGrom wasn't all that great. Didn't really make his pitches on Tuesday night. So it's on those two the next 2 days.
We'll certainly find.
If you're a Met fan, it's a good place to be because Chris Bassett's been Mr. Consistent all year long, and Jacob deGrom is Jacob deGrom.
All right, all great stuff there. So let's move on a bit because I got the Mets side. I got a little bit of the Yankee side. Obviously, we spoke about the news earlier on in the show that Albert Pujols hits his 698th home run. It's a timely home run for them. Obviously, Cardinals, we spoke a bit. Let's go to Rob Maraska. And obviously, Mr. Maraska, he's 2 home runs shy from 700. And does it look like he's going to get to 700 here? And what's your thoughts on Albert Pujols?
Yeah, I said it last week. I said I thought he would do it, and I still think he is going to do it. And, that's a great thing for baseball. So I'm happy about it. The guy deserves it, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time. Only 2 more home runs. So he's definitely going to do it, unless he gets injured or something crazy happens. He's going to do it.
And interesting, obviously, he's doing it with the team in first place, and his home runs matter. And Chris, obviously, it looks like we will be spared maybe from those underhand tosses and maybe doctoring baseballs because he needs about 2 home runs here in about 2.5 weeks. And do you feel like we're going to see history here in 700 home runs from Mr. Pujols?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I said it last week too. I'm with all you guys. I mean, listen, 2 more. He should get, and like you said too, maybe if it gets towards the end and he hasn't gotten it, somebody might throw him a couple of easy ones up there. Not so obvious either, but maybe just, the catcher will say, all right, fastball's coming, something like that. Because it would really be a shame if he doesn't get to 7, not just for himself, but for the league itself. It would be great to have Major League Baseball, maybe they would cut in on one of his at bats to get to 700. I really hope he gets it. Maybe winning a game or something like that would be really cool. But I still think he gets it one way or the other.
Oh, we'll certainly find out here. And Carlos says Pirates are predicted to be a top team within 2 to 3 years. They're doing better with their talent in the club. Mets have to win these games. Okay, great stuff there. And Justin, obviously, Pujols, though, Cardinals have taken the lead here. And again, so interesting to me that Pujols has had this run, and it's been a meaningful one, as the Cardinals are obviously in first place. We spoke about them, and they're sort of behind the Mets. They have an outside chance with that, the Mets and Braves. And it looks like, I guess, we're going to see history here in the next 2 or so weeks.
I think so. I mean, I would love to see it in the next 2 days. The Cardinals do have 3 games over the next 2 days, in which they have a doubleheader tomorrow with the Reds, and then on Sunday. Because if not, they go on an 8-game road trip to the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Brewers. And with the Padres and the Dodgers being 2 playoff teams, and we might see a lot of those games on national television. MLB Network picking up a bunch of these games, and I would imagine Pujols is going to be in the lineup close to every night as the designated hitter, and maybe a spare here or there at first base. But I think we're going to see it, and it's just absolutely going to be an incredible moment for baseball. It really will.
No question about that here. And John Gonzalez wants to say, shout out to Big Mo Rob Maraska here. And
Thanks,
Carlos
John.
says, yes, Pujols will get the record no matter how old he really is or isn't. Joe Dell says Mets are in first at least. Billy, with 2 home runs away from Albert Pujols, maybe, Justin, we take that approach and he'll get it this weekend. I'm going to still say he gets it at least within the next 2 or so weeks. But what do you think here about Mr. Albert Pujols and his historic run?
Yeah, I think it's fitting into a legendary career. This binge he's been on in the second half. Because it would start even at the start of the year. I didn't think there was any chance he was going to get to 700. He was far enough away where I didn't think he'd do it. Yeah, I think he's going to get there. I think he's ever since the home run derby, he's been hitting home runs at a good pace. It's going to be a big moment for baseball, like was said. The man, I think I said this a couple weeks ago. Like, it's a good reminder to people like who only really saw like the broken down version of Pujols with the Angels, just how good this guy was in his prime. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for baseball. I think he's gonna be the last one to get 700 for a while. I'm hoping he gets there. I'm confident he will. Good for him. I think doing it in a Cardinals uniform too is just such a meaningful thing.
I thought about that this morning. I thought that was kind of a nice thing.
It would have felt weird if he did it in like an Angels uniform or a Dodgers uniform or something. So I'm glad he's back with the Cardinals doing this. I think it's just a great end to a first ballot Hall of Fame career.
No question about that here in the Brew Force. Brad Weiss, I know at one time you had said you didn't think Pujols would get there, but it looks like he's going to get there. I know certainly from a lot of people, it seems like here he's going to get there. And I mean, what do you think? And I know you've played with some teammates that were doing some pretty special things in the 1,000-point club, Frank Basile and Andy Laurent and Fernando Vasquez, Isaiah Moore. I remember when they were scoring 1,000 points, and that's kind of a big feat. And talk to me about Pujols, and I would imagine as a teammate of his, as it's shown by the Cardinals' record in their play the last several weeks, it gives you a big lift. And what's your thoughts on this run?
Yeah, it's obviously been an amazing run for Albert Pujols, but one thing that the type of player I was and the type of coach I am, I'm not going to say it more towards Pujols. I'm going to say it more towards the team. He's been huge for the team, and I think that needs to go notice more because we're all talking about his individual number, but we're not talking enough about how, to Justin's point earlier in the show, how the St. Louis Cardinals are actually playing. They're playing really well, and he's a big reason why. So that needs to be, shine the light on a little bit more. But for Pujols' sake, yeah, I mean, listen, you got to be excited. He's going to get it. He's going to get it. I agree with everybody else. He's going to get it. But as a teammate of his, you don't shine too much attention on it. You don't really want to make him think about it too much. You just want to let him continue to play, continue the way he's been playing, and it'll come. It's not something that you want to talk about, you want to bring up in the clubhouse. That used to be a thing with guys who were close to 1,000 points. You don't want to bring it up. You'll cheer and you'll get excited about it when it happens, but not before it happens. So I think it will happen. And I'm actually kind of confident it's going to happen by the time we talk next Friday. So I'll say that, and maybe I'll be the first to congratulate him. So we'll see.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up because I know you played with, I think, four 1,000-point scorers. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Fernando Vasquez, Isaiah Moore, Andy Laurent, and Frank Basile most recently. When those guys were coming up to that milestone, did guys not talk to them, treat them different? I know it's not the same as 700 home runs, but 1,000 points in college basketball still is rarefied air. I mean, what would you do in that situation? How would you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't treat the person differently. I mean, we still go about the clubhouse and the way that we do things the same way. But it's just simply one of those things that you just don't bring up. Even when, and I'll say this, sometimes the actual individual themselves would bring it up.
Okay, all right.
And I wouldn't even talk to them about it because I just didn't want to, exert that point too much to where they overthought it or they tried to take bad shots in the game to get the number quicker. Like, that's not what you want your players doing. And as a coach, too, I'll take a coach's side to this. I would not want my player thinking about 1,000 points. You never want to think about that. You want to think about how we're going to win the game. How are you going to help me win the game? And how you're going to help me win the game is by taking good at-bats, and the home runs will come, and that's how Pujols plays the game. So you don't want to put it in his head. And when it comes to my own teammates and my own players, I've seen milestones. I've seen things come up, but we don't talk about it. And when it happens, we tell the team and we congratulate and we have fun about it. But that's not until it happens. Before it happens, you do not bring it up. You move on, right? And your goal is to win. And ultimately, if you're winning and if you're having success, the number and the accomplishment will come. And I think that's the same thing that Pujols will do because the Cardinals are a good team and he's going to have the right approach and it's going to come.
And let me get to a few more comments before I run into some scores and then go over to the Aaron Judge talk. He's definitely MVP this last month. He's going to get it just like you're going to get it from Steelers fans to brute force. Great job on John Gonzalez's comment. Poulos has been keeping the Cardinals in the game, and 18 home runs and 262 at-bats going into play tonight. So certainly a very impressive run here. 519 slugging percentage going in. But some scores here as we're on Sportswire Radio right now. We'll run them down here. Cubs 2, Rockies 1, Nationals 5, Marlins 4. Blue Jays 6, Orioles 3. I think we can pretty much put to bed the Orioles as a playoff team after that loss. Mets, as we mentioned earlier on, 4-3 win over the Pirates. Rangers 4, Rays 3. Tigers 3, White Sox 2. Very difficult loss there for the White Sox. Red Sox 2, Royals 1, Guardians 4, Twins 3. That means the Guardians are up now 4 on the White Sox, 5 on the Twins. So that certainly means that the White Sox and Twins have their work cut out for them in a division that somebody has to win. Braves 7, Phillies 2, Yankees and Brewers 5-5 in the bottom of the 7th. Astros 5, A's nothing. Cardinals 6, Reds 5, bottom of the 8th. Just like another team that's given the Cardinals some fits in the red, just like how the A's.
With that win, the Astros were the first American League team to clinch a playoff berth.
Congratulations to the Astros. And the Angels 5, the Mariners 3, Padres 5, Diamondbacks 1. Padres definitely struggling there. Dodgers 3, Giants nothing. And standings, the Yankees are up 6 games.
Apple TV.
Yep, Yankees are up. Apple TV. That's a topic.
Yeah, I have Apple TV Plus on right now watching the Dodger game.
Wow, lucky.
Before you get to the standings,
sure.
Let's take a quick round of applause for what Mike Trout just did over the last week, and he
7 straight games. Yeah,
7 straight games with the home run. And, he's back to his MVP form. Obviously, he's not going to win MVP this year. Clearly not. It's Aaron Judge, but. He's back to playing his MVP ways. And another home run tonight is 36th of the year. I mean, God, for a guy who missed 5 weeks, this guy could have, Mike Trout could have hit 50+ home runs this year. I mean,
absolutely, and it's amazing.
He stayed healthy. One of his
right. It's amazing because Judge
years from a power standpoint.
Yeah, and it's amazing because Judge has had 20 home runs on everybody.
And now with that home run in the American League. I mean, because Schwarber homer tonight, that was his 39th. So he's second in baseball because he leads the National League.
Yep.
But Trout's second in the American League, 36 home runs. I mean, it's quite impressive.
Absolutely. And standings here before we go over to the aforementioned Aaron Judge. Yankees 6 games ahead over the Blue Jays, 7.5 over the Rays. Can pretty much forget about the Orioles. Guardians, as I mentioned, 4 games up on the White Sox. Twins certainly haven't done themselves any favors because they played the Guardians last weekend. Didn't work out too well for them. And this weekend so far hasn't worked out for them too well. And Astros 13.5 up on the Mariners. Mariners are in that second wild card. Blue Jays are in the first, and Rays are in that last spot. I think you can pretty much write to bed that those are going to be 3 playoff teams. And the Mariners, it looks like they'll finally return to the postseason for the first time since 2001 and put to bed the longest streak in professional sports without a postseason berth. Yankees, we mentioned, are up 6 games. Mets are up 1 game over the Braves, 10 over the Phillies for what that's worth, but they're playing for a wild card spot. Cardinals 7.5 ahead of the Brewers. But the Brewers certainly are right behind the Padres. They are a game and a half behind them. Dodgers are pretty much a foregone conclusion there. So let's come back then to the aforementioned Aaron Judge, who's certainly also in his own right looking for some history, I guess as some would say. And for you, Rob Maraska, Aaron Judge, and do you think he gets it now that we're a little closer? We're about 4 home runs away from 61, 5 from 62, and we've got about 2.5 weeks left in the season. So what do you think here, Rob Maraska?
Yeah, I think he does it. He's the MVP of the American League. And you know what? He played his cards right, because if he doesn't get injured in the rest of the season or the postseason, he's going to get some contract next year. And I don't know if the Yankees are going to pay him what he wants, or if another team's going to do it. But, he's definitely going to, I think he's going to break the American League home run record before the end of the season. So I think he's going to do it. And you know what? Whatever money or contract he could get, he deserves it.
Oh, I'll tell you what, he certainly went from what 235 the Yankees offered him to at least I think 315 and change. And let me get to a couple of other comments. Ron Laird also wants to point out Florida State goes on the road. Thinking of my old friend Kyle Christopher here, and certainly Florida State alumni, and they beat Louisville, a big win for Florida State on the road for sure. And Joe Dell also wants to remind people that the Guardians used to be called the Indians. Yes, they were called the Indians, and that's for sure. But the Guardians are in first place right now, so maybe the name change helped them. I don't know. Listen, just kind of like the Washington football team. They named the Washington football team the Brute Force, and they win, for what it's worth, the NFC East that year. But Anthony Finkel also wants to remind everybody the $300 million man, Aaron Judge. And Chris, I know I'm going to ask you the same question, and obviously I do feel like in a way I'm going to ask it in a twist, because going off what Rob Maraska said, I mean, it has to mean that Aaron Judge is not going to any team now no less than, I would say, $325 million based off Anthony Finkel's comment. And I mean, what do you make of all this stuff as we're getting closer and closer now to Judge maybe chasing history and maybe even a contract worth of history?
Yeah, I mean, I hope he gets, well, first let's go. I hope he gets the number. Hope he gets 62, 61. Excuse me.
Stuart from Brooklyn, by the way, last night, Justin will appreciate this. He thinks Judge is going to get 65, by the way. That was his number. Okay. 8 and 18 games.
Listen, the way he's playing, it's possible, man. The way he's playing, he gets hot. And what's great about him is now he's going for the Triple Crown, which is crazy. I mean, he's like 10 points behind the average.
Listen, Goldschmidt and Judge could be Triple Crown winners. Who knows?
It's pretty impressive.
And I posed this question. I don't know if anybody knew the answer. Has there ever been a time where a Met and a Yankee both won the batting title?
In the same season?
No, I don't think so, because the only Met that won the batting title was Jose Reyes.
Right. And I know he took it over tonight, and I don't know what Freeman's batting right now.
And the last Yankee to win a batting title was it not after? Did Jeter win one after Bernie Williams?
No, I don't think anybody won one after Bernie.
Bernie won it in '98 by like a tenth of a
Bernie
point.
Bernie was Mattingly, right?
Didn't Paul O'Neill win it in '94? He hit 3 in the strike year.
Okay. Yeah.
If you count that as a batting champion, I believe he won it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I look at it with him, I hope he gets the number. And with the MVP, listen, I get the whole argument that Ohtani should get it too. But the way I separate the two, and it's pretty simple. When you talk about most valuable, right? Judge, with the Yankees without Judge right now, would be barely a wild card team, the way they've been playing the last month or so. He's been literally carrying this team on his back.
A great point.
So the Angels, with or without Ohtani, they go nowhere, right? They're still a non-playoff team. With him, they're 20 games below 500 right now. And then if you if you just think about that, that means the Angels haven't played a big game since like May. So for the last 2-3 months, Ohtani's been playing games that really don't matter. So how impressive is that? Yes, it is impressive what he's doing, but he's also doing it not exactly under pressure, right? Judge is obviously more under pressure, and he's carrying his team, and they're in the playoffs, and they're leading the division, whatever you want to say. So that's how I separate the two. So I think Judge should win it. And with the money, yeah, definitely. He's going to get, at the very least 8 years, close to $40 million a year. So, and that's at least that. He's obviously going to get more than that. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, does he want to play for the Yankees and retire a Yankee and have all that captaincy, maybe retire his number, all that stuff? Or does he want to play, closer to home, where to live, California? That's where his parents are. That's where his wife's parents still live. So does he want to live near there? Or does he want to just go for the most money? Whoever offers him the most money, because someone might go crazy and say, I'll give you 10 years, $400 million. Somebody might do that. I don't know. But
yeah, no, it's interesting. Very, very interesting.
Manager Farhan Zaidi said they have about $120 million coming off the books this year.
Yeah, so, I think a lot of teams are going to be spending money.
And by the way, to answer Justin's question, no Met Yankees ever won the batting title. The only Mets batting title was Jose Reyes, 2011.
Who sat out the last game of the season, right, to preserve the batting title.
No, laid down a bunt and then left. He won it by 5 points, but that was the first of 3 straight
And I
bad
think didn't Bernie do the same? I want to say Bernie did the same thing in '98 that year. I think he sat out the last game because it was him. I think and was either Move On or No More Garcia Parra. They were kind of like neck and neck for the batting title, and I think Bernie finished it by like literally like a tenth of a point or some number like that. So
trust me, Jeff McNeil wouldn't do that.
No.
Well, that's Jeff McNeil. But I mean, I'm going to go to you formally, Justin, before I go back to Billy in the brute force and move on here and come back to the NFL games. I mean, I would imagine then you think Judge is going to get there and get past 61 and obviously segue us into this whole free agent sweepstakes. Such an interesting situation with him.
It's going to be very fascinating. It's going to be interesting to see what teams do make a play. I mean, I certainly do think he's going to go past 61. You know, I think he'll end up around 63, 64. He's obviously capable of going on these heaters where he can rack them up in a short amount of time. And, it'll be interesting to see how teams pitch him. I mean, he's obviously still getting intentional walked quite a bit too. You're not going to see him, really have a chance in a big situation unless there's not a base open. So that could hamper that, but I still think that he's going to get it. And the more home runs he hits, the more dollars that could add to that contract. I mean, don't sell yourself short. I mean, he might exceed what Scherzer got with the $43 million. I mean, you might ask for it. And he might get it.
I'll tell you what. After the year he's had, I mean, this is just one for the ages. I mean,
I'm not going to do quick math on what the AAV would be, but I mean, 8 for 330. I mean, who says that's unrealistic at this point? And
there's going to be a lot of teams with a lot of money to spend this year. It's not just
there's going to be a lot of teams, and Yankee fans close your ears, but Boston's going to be one of them.
Yeah.
The Giants are going to be a team that can spend a lot of money.
Watch out for the Cubs too.
The Cubs don't sit back when they know they have money they can spend. They'll spend.
Hey, imagine him in that ballpark. I mean, we saw Sammy Sosa, for what it's worth, hit 60 home runs 3 times. Judge in Wrigley Field. I mean, the friendly confines. I mean, that could certainly be.
And the Cubs are. You know what? They could latch on to Judge as their guy. They're going to sell to the fans for the next decade, right? No matter if they suck or not.
They got guys that I really like. I mean,
and Carlos said that. Carlos said that. Yep.
Yeah, I think Patrick Wisdom's a pretty solid player. Obviously they got Seiya Suzuki. They held on to Ian Happ. They might keep him around.
Contreras. Yep.
Well, Contreras is a free agent after the year, so I don't expect him back. But I'm talking about guys who are under contract for the future.
You still bring him back. You still could.
They could. Christopher Morel's been okay at shortstop. I mean, there's pieces there for Chicago.
Horner.
Yeah, Nico Horner, absolutely. But I don't know. And obviously the big wild card is if they somehow lose Trey Turner. But the Dodgers will find room for him. They find room for everybody.
Boy, everybody would complain about the Yankees years ago and how the Yankees would have everybody. If the Dodgers get Judge, I mean, that'll certainly maybe even put that to bed. But, Billy, obviously, I want to come back to you and then go to the brute force. And what do you think here? Does Judge get it? And where do we go from here after that?
Yeah, I definitely think he'll get it. He's, he's the only player. I'm not saying he's going to do this. He's, I think, the only player in baseball that has the potential to go on a heater where he could actually challenge Bond's record of 73. I don't think he'll get there. I'm not saying he's going to approach that, but if there's one guy in the MLB that you were he could put on a huge push and get to it, it would be Judge. I think he finishes, 64, 65. Depends on how long it takes the Yankees to clinch, whatever seed they end up clinching. They might rest him a few games going into the playoffs. But I have no doubt he can get to 61, 62. Then, where does he go from here? I've thought for a while he's going to end up back with the Giants, although I'm going to say something that I know the National League fans here are not going to want to hear. The one team you can never count out when a top player becomes available, Justin smiling. He knows where I'm going with it. Those damn Los Angeles Dodgers. Again, it strikes me like they're going to try to sweep in and at least make an offer to him and like just really load up.
The only thing is, from a timing standpoint, is they're going to want to be heavily in on the Trey Turner situation, and Trey Turner made some interesting comments about some of his preferences. He prefers to play on the East Coast.
And they figure Turner's gone anyway. Gavin Lux can probably slide over to shortstop.
I don't think they view him as the long-term shortstop.
Not long-term, but stopgap until they get someone, comes available.
Yeah, I don't know because they willingly let Seager walk knowing they had Turner in the fold and that they were playing on both Turner.
They can afford Turner and Judge if they wanted to.
My best guess is that I was just being facetious with Judge to the Dodgers. I think they're going to make a massive play to keep Trey Turner.
Yeah, I think Judge goes to the Giants personally. I think they're going to make him the offer, make him the new face of the franchise. That's kind of where I see this going. Every move they've made the last few years seems to be setting themselves up to be big players in free agency this year. I think Judge is the prize they want.
Yeah, because this is the first time since Buster Posey came up that they don't have a face of the franchise.
Yeah,
they're kind of just missing it this year. You got some good players, but they don't have that lead.
So let me come over here to the Brute Force Brad Weiss, and then I'm going to work Rob Moroskin here one more time on a few thoughts on John Stearns, and I'm going to go shotgun. I'm going to go just shotgun on the games, just who do you like, and then move on because I want to get as many games in. So the Brute Force, I like to ask you because Aaron Judge certainly, just like we asked Pujols, I mean, what do you think after hearing everybody else? What do you make of this whole Aaron Judge situation?
Yeah, so I'm going to change my position because the last few weeks I've been saying, no, Aaron Judge is not going to get it. And I made that statement because I thought teams would be smart enough not to pitch to him and not give him, pitches to hit. But the Red Sox clearly did not get that memo because they just kept letting him hit home runs. So, they're not getting the memo. I don't think anybody else is going to do it. So now I'm feeling the reverse way. I think Aaron Judge is going to keep getting pitches to hit. And he's going to keep hitting him out of the ballpark. So I'm going to change my position. Yes, he does get it. And he's going to make it happen. Hit 63, 64, like Justin said. Originally, my position was he's going to get 58 to 60, but he's already at 57 because, like I said, teams like the Red Sox, who I thought would know better, simply did not know better, and it cost them a few games against the Yankees. So that's how I feel about that. With Aaron Judge, and his money, again, it's going to be hard for the Yankees to retain him. Obviously, like Chris said, the pitch is not the money. It's going to be about the fame, about with Aaron Judge. But, at least Ken Rosenthal said it yesterday. There's a chance that the team that's crosstown might offer him a big amount of money, too, in the New York Mets. I wouldn't count them out either on Aaron Judge because they do have money. We'll see, by the way, who the new Mets president is because it won't be Sandy Alderson, it looks like, going forward. So we'll see who that is and what he thinks. But ultimately, I can't rule them out. You can't rule out the Dodgers. But the favorites, as Billy said, I think he's right, are the Giants. And I think the Giants, it makes perfect sense. Oh, stop it, John Gonzalez.
I'm getting to the Lions in a few minutes because I want to get it.
Aaron Judge will go Detroit.
Yep. All right.
So, we'll get to the good team in Detroit in a second. All right.
Yep, we're gonna get to them. Because
ultimately, the Tigers are not that, and he will not be going there. But honestly, Chris, I wouldn't be that upset. By the way, that obviously losing Aaron Judge would be very disappointing. But how about gaining Trey Turner to the Yankees? That would be a nice fit for the Yankees. With Isaiah Kiner-Falefa not exactly making everybody go crazy right now.
Well, shortstop's going to be Volpe, so next year.
That's true. But, then you also have the flexibility with Turner. He has played second base, so he can move around the infield potentially. But he said that he wants to play on the East Coast, to Justin's point. So I'm not saying he does because, like Justin accurately said, the Dodgers are going to go after him pretty aggressively. So he'll probably feel the pressure to stay with the Dodgers. But if he wants to go to the East Coast and there's a team that maybe could see him as a fit, it's not going to be.
What about the Mets?
It's not going to be.
I think he just mentioned them, and he said, he's got deep pockets, the owner, Steve Cohen, and
second
maybe
or
the
third
Mets.
for Turner.
As a second baseman, okay. I can potentially see it as a second baseman because he's not playing shortstop. But I do see other teams potentially as good fits for him. But my point is that whether it's the Mets or Yankees, these are teams that obviously want to win, so it wouldn't hurt to add a Turner to the roster. So certainly, obviously the Yankees want to see Aaron Judge stay. But as everyone has alluded to already, the number just keeps going higher and higher. At this point, it's starting to get scary to think about how high the number is going to be for Aaron Judge because he just continues to impress. And, to our point before, to Rob's point, what a great decision not to take that contract because it's just looking like it's going up by the day.
All right, we'll certainly see what happens, and very quickly because I do want to go to the NFL games, and I'm going to go just shotgun. So I'm going to ask you the game. Don't give me why you think it. I'm just going to ask you because I want to get as many of them because the brute force is going to do it in picks. So Rob Maraska, I wanted to ask you. I know it's the last thing I'm going to ask you in terms of John Stearns. I know obviously tough day for Mets fans. Obviously we saw him at Old Timers Day, and give me your thoughts. You watched him play. I know he meant so much to you in terms of what he meant to the Met fan base. Obviously, all-star catcher and no longer with us here. And give me your thoughts and memories on the passing of Mets legend John Stearns.
Yeah, sad day. I'm glad that he made it to Old Timers Day 3 weeks ago. Listen, he was one of the only bright lights in terrible, terrible New York Mets teams. And believe me, I was at Shea Stadium watching those teams, and he was the best of the worst. 4-time All-Star. Listen, when the Mets traded Tug McGraw after the 74 season, I was not happy about that. No Met fan was, but Tug had an over 4 ERA in 74. So they traded him. They got Del Unser, they got Stern, and a couple other guys. Stearns. He was a great Met for that time period, and he was one of the only things that you could watch on that team. Believe me, I was at Shea when there were only maybe 5,000 people in the seats. Maybe 6,000, and he was an all-star. He was a great guy, great teammate. They loved him, and he was
a Met coach also, if I recall correctly, later on, right?
Yep, he was a Mets coach.
2000, right? With 2000, maybe 2001, I want to say, right? He was a coach on those years.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember him. I remember him as a Met coach. I obviously don't remember him as a player. I heard of him as a player, but I remember him on those teams as a coach.
Yeah, he was for years he was the only Met to make the All-Star team. So that's how bad the Mets were. But he was a good player and a great guy, and it's a sad day in New York Mets history. And since you guys are going to the NFL and you're going to speed it, I'm going to just give my final thought here.
Absolutely, because I do want to pick some games, but I'm going to go shotgun. Give you the floor. Yep.
Tonight. So
sure, no problem.
Another good show and segment. Thanks, guys. You could get me on Twitter at @RMaraska and on Facebook at Rob Maraska. And you know what? We'll see what happens with these Mets in the upcoming weeks. Have a good
absolutely.
Okay, have a good rest of the show, guys. I'll catch you.
And Joe Dell says here, John Stearns was one of the rare golden players back when they were fighting for the Cubs for last. Yep, that was the maybe Dave came in a couple intermittent runs there as well. Might have been maybe the better Mets player, but that was about it. Doug Flynn, I guess, was a part of those teams, but not much else. But all right, Mr. Maraska, great stuff. Everybody can follow you at @Maraska. We'll definitely have more Mets coverage with you next week, and thank you as always. That was our longest tenured analyst, Rob Maraska, and I do want to shift over to the NFL. So I want to go shotgun because I realize we're going to go almost no huddles, almost like no huddle in football, and we're going to pick some games here.
Let's not get out of breath like Gerald Everett.
Well, let's. I have had that problem before, but thankfully I know how to pace myself. So we'll see what happens here. But let's just go shotgun. Let's go Bears, Packers. Packers, 10-point favorites here. 41.5 is the over/under. So I'm going shotgun. Chris, who do you think here wins?
Packers. They're going to win big. I think Aaron Rodgers he's going to break out. So they'll win big. They'll win by 2 touchdowns, 28-14.
All right, Justin. Bears, Packers. Packers 10.5-point favorites. Sunday night game, 41.5 over under.
Packers easy.
All right. For you, Billy.
Yeah, Packers win and cover.
And the brute force, Bradley Weiss, Bears, Packers, Sunday night game, Packers 10.5-point favorites, 41.5 is the over-under.
It's the upset.
No.
No.
Packers win, but I actually, to your point, Chris, disagree. I think the Bears cover the spread. I think the game is close.
Okay.
All right, I'll give you that. John Gonzalez likes the Packers. Odell says Jets never disappoint when it comes to disappoint. We'll get to them. So fair enough here. Bengals, Cowboys. Bengals 7-point favorites. Very rare to see Dallas 7-point underdogs for obvious reasons at home. 41.5 is the over-under. For you, Chris, Bengals favorite. Do they come back here and get off the schneid, or does Dallas find a way somehow here and win? What do you think?
I don't believe Cooper Rush could do much with that offense. So I'm going to say the Bengals are going to win big, like 24-10.
Okay, and just also to back up, I go with the Packers. I say Packers 30, Bears 10. So I'm going to go with that. Justin here, Bengals 7-point favorites against Dallas. 41.5 is the over-under. What do you think?
I disagree with Chris. I think Cooper Rush will play well, but I still think I'll take Bengals in the points.
All right, fair enough. For you, Billy, Bengals 7-point favorites. 41.5 is the over-under in Dallas.
I'm taking the Bengals to win big. I don't know. I think the under hits, though. I don't think Dallas scores at all. So I think you get like shutout or a 3-point offense.
Well, you might have read my mind when I get to my take. But the brute force, Brad Weiss, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And who do you pick? Bengals 7-point favorites. So rare to me to see, though, Dallas this early in the year to be 7-point underdogs at home. But that is the case here. 41.5 is the over-under. What do you think, Brad Weiss?
Yeah, the spread should be more than 7.5. The Cowboys are getting blown out. It's not even going to be close. They didn't look good with Dak Prescott, and they're not going to look good with Cooper Rush. Give me like 40-13 final. And
I had 28-10. I had 28-10.
Bengals are mad because they lost the damn Steelers.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on this one, and John Gonzalez agrees. Rare, we all agree with me and you and John Gonzalez in the same thread, but I'm happy to see that. So John Gonzalez goes with the Bengals. Let's go with another intriguing matchup, Cardinals, Raiders. Raiders 5.5-point favorites here at home, 51.5, one of the higher over-unders. And Chris, what do you think here? An intriguing matchup here. Almost kind of like feel like I would avoid this in the spread here, but what do you think? And Cardinals, Raiders 5.5-point favorites, 51.5 is the over/under.
Yeah, this is a tough game to pick because
really tough one.
I mean, Arizona, I don't know what to think about them anymore because last year they started off so good, and then the second half, and then the playoff game they were just horrible, and then they started this week horrible, this year horrible. So. Do they continue? I could see a shootout here. I think the Raiders will win, but I'm going to take Arizona with the points.
All right, for you, Justin, Raiders 5.5-point favorites here at home against the Cardinals, 51.5 over under. What do you think?
This is a great chance to bring in Chris Berman and go with the Raiders. Vegas gets to go.
You got the look. You look like Berman a little bit right now.
Vegas gets to go, and they bounce back after the loss from the Chargers. I did not like the way the Cardinals played. They got absolutely steamrolled last week, and I don't think it gets much better.
All right. Billy, Cardinals, Raiders, 5.5-point favorites are those Raiders. 51.5 is the over-under. What do you think?
I'm going to take the Cardinals to win this one, actually. I think September Cardinals are usually really good. I think they bounce back from a rough week. I don't trust the Raiders' defense to slow down Kyler Murray, so I'm taking the Cardinals on the upset in this one.
The brute force, Brad Weiss, Cardinals, Raiders 5.5-point favorites here at home. 51.5 is the over-under. Let's say you.
Yeah, I'm going to say one thing right here. Let me take the double D. Devontae and Darren. Devontae Adams and Darren Waller have big games. I'd make it 3 Ds, by the way. Derek Carr has a good game as well. And I think the Raiders do put up a lot of offense. And because this Cardinals defense is horrendous, in my opinion, I think that they'll go and score a lot of points. Give me like a 35-27 game. It will be a lot of points, but I think the Raiders win.
You literally stole what I was about to say, just about. I have Raiders 34, Cardinals 24. Did you see my notes before we got on the air? But that's what it feels like. And John Gonzalez agrees also. He likes Vegas as well. Yeah, I think it's just kind of, to me, screams at Raiders win here. But let's go to a game that I really can't wait to pick. That is the Commanders and the Lions. Lions are 1.5-point favorites here. 48.5 is the over-under. And Chris, what do you think here on the Sportswire's adopted team, those Detroit Lions?
I'm looking for a coin to flip here. I'll say Detroit wins.
Okay.
I don't know, like 23-20, 27,
okay.
24, something like that.
All right, fair enough. For you, Josh, this is really kind of like one of those truly pick'em games here. 1.5 points.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable one way or the other. No. I'm gonna take the Lions here, but I just don't like Detroit's defense, and the Commanders at least play a very respectable brand of defense, and they're going to be able to come after Jared Goff in this game. So I'm gonna go Lions close just because they're home.
For you, Billy, Commanders, Lions, what do you think?
This is a classic Carson Wentz blow-up game. I don't think the Lions offense does much, but I think they end up winning like 17-6 because Carson Wentz can't get out of his own way.
And the brute force, Brad Weiss, can't wait to hear what you have to say here. Lions, Commanders, 1.5-point favorites here are the Lions at home. 48.5 is the over-under. What do you think?
Arguably, like I said earlier, Detroit's best team right now. The Detroit Lions. Yes, I said it. This is win number 1 of the season, and it's going to be convincing. I think that the Lions' offense is no joke. Their defense, I know, will struggle, at times, and the Commanders will score. But don't worry, Commander Carson will come through, just like Billy said. He'll have one of his bad games. Give me a solid win for Detroit. 26-13. Detroit wins.
You really are copying everything that I was about to say.
Oh my God!
Commanders 13, Lions 24. So you certainly, we must be having the same. We would be like in school when you knew that somebody was going to have the same answer. I was like, shoot, he's going to have my answer. That was pretty much that happened there. And John Gonzalez, of course, agrees, and I could certainly see. Well, let me go to another game. I'm going to go to as many of them as I can, and that's another intriguing matchup here. Colts and Jaguars. Colts, again, I don't know what to say about them. They are sort of the 0-1 Colts against the Jaguars. Colts are 4-point favorites here on the road. 45.5 is the over-under. And Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to go Colts. I think the Colts will bounce back. I still think they're going to be the division winner in that division. And they got to play better than last week, and they definitely have to play better than they did last week and last season, where they blew the division there. So the playoffs. I'm going to say that they're going to win big. I'll say 27-17. They'll win.
All right. For you, Justin, Colts are favorites on the road against Jacksonville. Jacksonville, some teams feel like will be a much improved team. What do you think, though?
They'll be improved for sure, but this is a great week to get JT going. I feel like the run game was not quite there in the game against Houston. Give me Indianapolis here. I think that there's just not enough there for Jacksonville this week.
Billy, Colts, Jaguars, what do you think?
I think the Jaguars are a much improved team. I think they keep it close. Ultimately, I'm picking Colts by 5.
The brute force, Brad Weiss, Colts, 4-point favorites here on the road, 45.5, and there he goes. So to save time, I'm going to go, for whatever reason, call me crazy, I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars here because I thought about the last game of the regular season there. Improved team, maybe something to play for. I'm going to say Jaguars 27. I'm going to say Colts 20. They kind of find a way to pull it out, and John Gonzalez also agrees here. All right, so we'll get back to the brute force in a second. Let's try to run through as many more games left as possible, and we'll go to the Sundays and the Monday night games and the locals. But let's go to Texans, Broncos. Broncos 10-point favorites here. 45 is the over/under. Chris, what do you think here with the Texans and Broncos?
You know what? Denver's home. They got to bounce back after last week. They have to be better than that. I know the Texans, but you know what? The Texans, I think, are going to keep it closer than we think. Denver's going to win, but Houston's going to keep it close. So I'll say Texans will cover, let's say 27-20.
All right, fair enough. And for you, Justin, Texans, Broncos 10-point favorites. 45 is the over-under. What do you think?
I like Denver here. Russell Wilson's going to bounce back. I think he's absolutely disappointed with the way he performed in Seattle. Houston's not going to be any good. I mean, they might be a little more competitive than we thought, but they're not good enough.
Billy, Texans, Broncos 10-point favorites here. 45 is the over-under. What do you think?
I think the Broncos cover, but barely. I was not impressed with them last week. I wasn't impressed by Russell Wilson last year. I'm wondering if he's starting to decline. They're going to cover. I think they win. I think you're looking at maybe, 28-16, something in that range. They barely cover it, but they do cover it.
The Brute Force, Brad Weiss. I'll go with a double play here. I'll go Texans, Broncos, then I'll go back to Colts, Jaguars. What do you think in both games?
Yeah, very easy. Just like Billy said, I 100% agree. I think the Broncos do cover, but just barely. They will get it done. And the Colts will win. I think the Colts are going to come back. Big week for Jonathan Taylor against the Jaguars. Expect that. And I think Matt Ryan has a good game. So Colts win pretty big over the Jaguars.
And Titans, Broncos, you have also Denver?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Denver.
And John Gonzalez has Denver. I'm going to go Denver here. I think Denver convincingly, I'll say 30-14. And then let's go to the Monday night games. Then we'll go to the two locals very quickly. So we'll go to the first Monday night game. We'll go to Titans, Bills. Bills 10-point favorites. 48 is the over-under. Chris, what do you think here?
Bills win big. I'll say 31-13.
All right. For you, Justin, Titans, Bills. Bills 10-point favorites. 48 is the over-under.
Yeah, we got a new resident moving into Blowout City. That's going to be the Buffalo Bills. They're going to steamroll the Tennessee Titans in this game. It's not even going to be a fair fight.
All right. For you, Billy, Titans and Bills. Bills 10-point favorites. 48 is the over-under. What do you think?
Yeah, Josh Allen said he's going through a table if they ever win the Super Bowl. This week he's putting Ryan Tannehill through a table. Bills win big.
Well, I will make a sort of a volunteer jump in here. If he wants to go through a table, I know about 150 wrestlers that would be more than happy to put him in that table. So if there's anybody that wants to connect me with Mr. Allen, I can certainly name wrestlers. Pretty much, I can get a door or a fool.
I can put insurance with his contract, though.
Well, I'm sure that they can figure it out, and the wrestlers will definitely make sure that he's safely put through the table one way or another. But the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, Titans, Bills 10-point favorites here, 48 is the over-under. What do you think?
Yeah, one word, massacre. Like the guy said, it'll be a disaster. The Bills will win big. So we talked about earlier in the show, the Titans did not show well against the Giants, and they certainly will not impress us this week either against arguably the best team in football right now. Bills win big.
And I agree with you. I think Buffalo wins big, 28-6, though. And John Gonzalez says, my very, I guess you could say sort of friend, the unforgettable Andre Decker will take care of Mr. Yeah, he could do that. Mr. Decker, although I will remind you, John Gonzalez, he's gone through himself many tables. So he's a little dubious of going through tables or putting anybody through tables. But that's another topic here. Very quickly, Vikings, Eagles here. Really, really interesting game. I would avoid this game to pick, though. Eagles 2-point favorites. 50.5 is the over-under. Chris, what do you think?
I hate to go against Philly, so I can't. So I'm going to say Philly's game. It's going to be high scoring, though. I'll say 34-31 Philly. Late field goal wins it.
Justin, Vikings, Eagles. Eagles 2-point favorites. 50.5 is the over-under.
Better be getting that gritty ready because I don't see anybody who's stopping Justin Jefferson. I mean, it's time we start to maybe put the stamp on him as the best wide receiver in football. No answer. Him and Cousins do way too much in this game. Give me the Vikings. I don't care that's Monday Night Football and Kirk Cousins in prime time. Vikings win.
All right, and Billy, Vikings, Eagles. Eagles 2-point favorites. 50.5 is the over-under.
Yeah, you know what, Justin? I'll tell you who's stopping Justin Jefferson. Primetime Kirk Cousins. He's going to win. Not big, but comfortably.
All right, fair enough there. In the Brute Force, Brad Weiss, Vikings, Eagles, 2-point favorites of those Eagles. 50.5 is the over-under.
Yeah, just because the Eagles are the favorite. I'm going with Justin Gianelli. I agree with him 100%. I know it's Kirk Cousins in prime time, but I think the Vikings right now are actually a team to be reckoned with, and I think that they do find a way to win this game. Similar to Chris, though, I agree. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 27-23 is the final score. The Minnesota Vikings win.
And John Gonzalez goes with the Vikings, and because for whatever reason, I'm thinking of my friend Daniel Slavin, because on his fantasy football team, he has picked Kirk Cousins, and for whatever reason, call me crazy, I have to think like Daniel Slavin, because he's a very good friend of mine, that Kirk Cousins is going to have a big year. This might be his year finally, and I'm going to say Vikings 30. I'm going to say Eagles 21, and Vikings get it done. And you know what? Looking at that division, maybe there's an opening for the Vikings to have a stronger than expected year. They're always on the fringe playoff spot, and maybe this is their year. And I kind of like what I saw from Cousins last week, so I'm going to go with the Vikings. And shout out to Daniel Slavin. Hope you enjoy the clip when I post it. So let's go to the two locals here very quickly before we get to closing thoughts here, maybe a few MLB scores. So I'll go first here with the Jets and Browns. Browns 6.5-point favorites. 40 is the over/under. Chris, what do you think?
You know what? That's a lot of points. As bad as the Jets look, they got to look better this year. This week they have to bounce back a little bit. So I'm going to take the Jets. Give me the points, 6.5. Maybe they still lose on a late field goal or something, 23-20. But that's a lot of points to give to the Jets, I think.
Justin, can't wait what you have to say for this. Jets and Browns, 6.5-point favorites to the Browns, and 40 is the over/under. What do you think?
Browns might have the over by themselves.
Wow. Okay. All right. So
they probably won't. Give me Browns 28-6.
All right. Fair enough. That was a nice answer. Billy, Jets and Browns. Browns 6.5-point favorites here. 40 is the over/under. What do you think?
Ugly game. We lost Brood again. Ugly game. Carl Lawson and Myles Garrett feast. I'm taking Jets covering. Browns win like 10-6 or something disgusting like that. Just not worth watching.
Hey, at least we'd be in the game.
What? Sorry, Joe. How do you hear that, Justin?
At least they'll be in the game.
At least we'd be in the game at that point.
Yeah.
All right, so you're saying the Jets are going to cover?
Jets going to cover. No, I don't think either team approaches 15 points in this game. Going to be Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco. That's like, I'd rather watch two Division III quarterbacks.
You almost stole my thunder because
pick six.
You sort of stole my thunder. I will still say Cleveland, but I'm going to say 17 Cleveland, Jets 10. So I'll say that it'll be somewhat interesting. I think that the Jets will play a little bit better. And the brute force, Brad Weiss, I go to you before I get to the last game of the night here, and I'm amazed we even got through it in time. But your favorite team, of course, those New York Jets against the Cleveland Browns. 6.5-point favorites are the Browns. 40 is the over/under. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually openly going to admit and say that before this show, I thought about picking the Jets to win outright. But I came to my reality check, and you know, John Gonzalez put me in my place earlier in the show. I can't pick the Jets to win. The Browns will win, but I agree with what I heard from a couple of you guys. I think that the Jets will cover. I'm going to say this game will be Browns 16, Jets 13, and an ugly, disgusting.
You know, I feel like you've either been cheating on my notes or I've been cheating on your notes, because we've had, like, this week almost the same outcomes. Last week, we totally picked the opposites. This week, I think we picked like 4 or 5 of the same outcomes. So that'll be interesting here. But the last game of the night here, and the Giants and Panthers. Giants 2-point favorites here. 43.5 is the over/under. Chris, what do you think?
You know what? I think reality is going to set in this week. Carolina wins this game. I'll say 27-20.
All right, fair enough. Justin, 2-point favorite to the New York Football Giants. 43.5 is the over/under. What do you think?
Well, we're going to have to bring Chris Berman back in here for the G-Men. Giants are going to win this game. Baker Mayfield's not any good. Come on. Let's
All right.
do our sense.
All right.
Giants defense will play well, and Saquon Barkley's going to have another monster game.
I'm liking that. Billy, your New York Football Giants, 2-point favorites. 43.5 is the over/under against the Panthers. What do you think?
I think Brian Dable and Wink Martindale coach circles around Matt Rule this week. I like just that Baker Mayfield's not good. Neither is Daniel Jones, but I think Brian Daboll's going to put him in a much better position than Baker Mayfield gets put in. I have the Giants winning. I'm going to say 28-20 Giants win.
All right, in the Brew Force Brad Weiss, we saved maybe the best for last, maybe not, but the biggest for last. And the Giants and Panthers, Giants 2-point favorites, 43.5 over under. What do you think?
I'm with Chris Pizzea. I'm picking the Panthers to win this game. I think I totally could have agreed with Chris more. Reality is going to set in, and I think Christian McCaffrey scores the game-winning touchdown for the Panthers in this game and outshines Barkley this week. I'll give me Panthers 20, Giants 17 in a close game, but the Panthers will win, and Baker Mayfield will actually assist in them winning the game.
I'm going with John Gonzalez. I like the New York Football Giants. He also wants to say, I was 500 last week. I'm sure I'll be better this week. Well, I was 5-9 last week.
I was 5-9. I
was 5-9. So, but I think the Giants 21, Panthers 10. Something tells me here, maybe this is going to be a different year for the Giants. Saquon Barkley in a contract year. All I'm going to say, he's in a contract year. So that's all that we say. We'll see how we do next week on the show. And also Thursday night game, Chargers Chiefs was 27, Chiefs 24 Chargers. Baseball scores here before we get out of here. Yankees Brewers 6-6 bottom of the ninth. 4 Dodgers Giants nothing. 8-4 Angels over the Mariners top of the seventh. Padres are back on track 8-1 top of the eighth over the Diamondbacks. So those are some scores of note here. Certainly rather interesting Sportswire radio show. We pretty much got everything in here. So happy that we're on time. And let's go to our closing thoughts, and let's go to Chris. Obviously, Chris, it was nice to see you there at MetLife Stadium. I've seen you all over the place. So you at the Megadeth show. I've seen you at the Korn show. You're pretty much like Johnny Cash everywhere, man. So obviously looking forward to the Liftoff Jets show, and anything else you want to say, floor is yours, social media. And if you want to give a Megadeth thought or two, because I just bought the new album. I've played it a couple times on the radio, and I did like it a lot. So give me your thoughts on all that, and floor is yours.
Yeah, no, guys, great show as always, man. Always look forward to Friday nights with you guys. The concert was great. Megadeth sounded good. Short set, though. I think they played like 10 songs.
Yeah, I heard they were playing like an hour, right? It was about an hour, I heard.
Yeah, and the place was probably half full. So that was the depressing part of it. But the Korn show, Korn played with Evanescence. That place was packed.
Well, Korn always draws. Always draws. And
the crowd was so much more intense for that one. So
yeah,
usually the crowds in Long Island are not that.
Well,
really...
Megadeth is a very wonkish crowd. It's very like, it's almost like a progressive metal crowd, not in the politics term, but they're very much musician-y. Yeah.
Yep. So totally agree. But both good shows. MetLife. It was good for a half, and then that was it. But you can follow me, CP7NY, the Liftoff Jets show at Liftoff Jets, and then Talking Rivals at Talking Rivals. So we'll be ramping up. We're getting close to postseason. Looking forward to it. At least one of our teams from Talking Rivals will be in the postseason, and looking forward to it.
All great stuff there. Looking forward to continue to play the Talking Rivals show throughout the weekend. Liftoff Jets will put in the rotation when I wake up tomorrow afternoon. And all great stuff. Thank you as always, Chris. And John Gonzalez also says, great show, guys. The Brew Force, don't visit Pittsburgh. Take that advice for the Brew Force. But we'll get to you in a few minutes. And Justin, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, share, say? I know you have your 3 picks. You want to go there as well? You want to jump into that for your usual spot?
Yeah, I would like to apologize to my listeners and viewers from last week. I gave you 3 L's.
I know.
My picks did not do so hot. We had the over on Derrick Henry rushing yards, with the over on Justin Herbert passing yards, and we had
Jaguars winning.
Yes, no, I didn't have them winning. I had them covering.
Covering.
And they did not. And they did not cover.
What was the spread in that game?
It was 2.5.
Oh,
yeah.
And the Chiefs won by 3.
The late touchdown made it 28-22.
Right.
If they had went for the if they went for 2, if they had went for the game winning field goal, it would have been 23-22, and I would have covered. This week, We're going to do 2 player props. We're going to do 1 spread. The first player prop, we're going to go over 77.5 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley in this game. I really like how he's going to attack this Carolina defense. Number 2, we're going to take the over on Darren Waller receiving yards at 51.5. I think that's a low number for Darren Waller. I know Devontae Adams is now in this offense, but I really like how he's still going to be integrated in the offense. And plus, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. So give me that as number 2. And one spread we're going to hit, and that's going to be the Vikings plus 2.5 on Monday night. Like I documented before, I think the Vikings are going to come out with a big performance. I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson are going to connect on at least a touchdown. And the Vikings are going to come away with an upset victory. So those are my 3 locks. I hope to get you 3 winners this week. Unfortunately, we went 0 for 3, but we'll see if we can bounce back. As for the rest, another baseball banter probably maybe at some point this weekend. I will be at both Met games this weekend, and I better see a good crowd. It's the weekend, people. I get they're playing the Pirates, but it's the weekend. Let's start showing up to the game.
We got 7 o'clock tomorrow night. 7:05 first pitch.
7:10. Yep.
They should have. I mean, the weather's supposed
7:10 Saturday, 1:40 Sunday. Chris Bassett on the mound tomorrow. Jacob deGrom on the mound Sunday. So let's go. Let's sweep the Pirates. So possibly a Sunday night baseball banter recording. We'll continue to look at the Albert Pujols chase. We'll continue to look at the Mets and Braves race and some of the other races across baseball. That the juggling for we know who the 3 AL wildcard teams are, but the juggling and jockeying that could be between those 3. As for who gets the 4, 5, and 6 seeds is going to be pretty fascinating. So
I think that is going to be that could come down to the last day.
12 at JJNLE12 and at B-Ball Banter SM is where you can follow me.
Looking forward to all that. Hopefully, I get the next Baseball Banter show. We'll play it in the rotation. I'll be live a couple different times during the week.
You got the one I sent you last night? I gave you this week. I know.
Yeah.
From last weekend.
If I got it now, I'll check it on my email. We'll play it tomorrow because tomorrow I'll catch up and everything. So that's fine. No problem at all. Excellent. Billy, always good to be with you, my friend. I want to give you the floor. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say? And fire away, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Great show, everyone, as usual. Happy to be on. You can catch me on Twitter at WMCINE. So I got 1 football and 1 baseball closing thought. I'll start with the baseball one because Chris Mateo is wearing a Roberto Clemente shirt today. MLB, Rob Manfred, it is well past time. Retire number 21 league ride for Roberto Clemente.
I thought they were going to do it on Thursday.
I thought they were going to do it.
It was this time to do it, right? You had the whole Fox national
anniversary. Yeah, shame. The great player, great humanitarian. I think he deserves to have his number retired. I'm hoping they made the right decision with that one day. And the football story I'm watching is Justin Herbert's midsection. They expect him to play week 3, but how that team is built and how good the AFC and specifically the AFC West is going to be this year, if he misses any kind of time, I think that severely limits the chances of winning that division. So that's something I'm monitoring very closely, and not just because I have Herbert in fantasy. I think it's going to have a huge impact on, probably the most exciting division race this year. So those are my closing thoughts.
All great stuff there. We'll see how that develops. I did hear over the morning here about the whole thing with Herbert. We'll see how that develops. Also, Mets Braves. We'll see how the wild cards play out in the American League. That's a fascinating race as well. Cardinals. We'll see Albert as well. And while we didn't save the best for last, we probably saved the biggest for last in size. That is the brute force Brad Weiss. Obviously, saw some great stuff you were working on during the week with Level Up. We've got some friends of ours that have their own show, and they did a phenomenal job. Got a chance to listen to their whole show all throughout, and definitely want to give them a mention. And I turn it over to you, the brute force. You definitely know the drill, and fire away.
Yeah, guys, thank you for another great week of the show. Billy, Chris, Justin. Always a pleasure to be here every single Friday night. And as we continue to go through the weeks, as you guys saw, I'm going to keep track of these records. mainly the rubbing it to John Gonzalez is rubbing in for
John. He was 500 though. It wasn't terrible. He was 500.
No, it wasn't terrible, but John Gonzalez, he always disagrees with me, so I got to show him who's boss.
You were only what, one game ahead of him though? It wasn't like you were 5.
It's week one. We're gonna keep building.
All right.
But anyway, you can follow me on Instagram at bweiss20, searching Brad Weiss 20 on Twitter and Bradley Weiss on Facebook. To piggy off your point, of course, Tom, Level Up, we had a big time week. Last weekend, we set a record for most kids trying out for our program. Over 800 kids through 2nd to 11th grade came to our tryouts. So the program is going in a terrific direction. I'm actually wearing my Level Up Your Game shirt.
I noticed it.
So I was actually doing a charity event before the show tonight, representing Level Up in our brand. So I want to thank the people who invited me from Roslyn to be a part of the charity event. And also just Level Up doing big things. I'm extremely excited for the future of the program. And now, being out there today, I was an ambassador as well for the program, and I proudly represent the program. So if you're a basketball person, you love basketball, you got to follow us at levelup_LI on all social media platforms, doing big things. And certainly Jesse Winter, who I spoke to, Tom Bryce, wants to come on the show and talk about the program. So
let's definitely talk about that. You read my mind because you really are cheating on me because I was actually about to say in my head.
I don't know.
I had Jesse Winter in my head. I swear. I literally you know what? I was about to mention him. You mentioned him. You son of a gun. You have been cheating. I'm convinced you were cheating off my notes.
No, but Jesse, he loves our show as well.
Yes, so he's always liked our stuff. Jesse's a great guy. Yep, I definitely want to get him on.
So, again, the Level Up brand is doing great. And, between Level Up and a lot of other great basketball things as the season slowly but surely approaches, we have a lot of terrific guests that are kind of.
I'm fired up about October 15th. In my head, last week was the first time I was thinking about that. Now, October 15th is coming.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fun going forward. So I'm excited. The high school schedule is starting to come out as well for basketball. So things are coming around. So it's a great time of year, and we're looking forward to everything. But speaking of things we're looking forward to, as you mentioned, Tom Bryce, how about the Sportorium podcast, all right, with my buddy James Cronin? All right.
Now, I want to know. They call themselves Sportorium, and my first thought was, well, we used to be called Sportnarium. Was there say, hey, let's try to mimic or let's try to?
Listen, James Cronin's always up to tricks, so maybe he was trying to somewhat copy us and tried to be a little bit cute with it. But in the end, listen, I love myself some James Cronin, and I warned him on.
They were really good. I got to tell you, they were I listened to it. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be like some. I got to say nice things about him, but there was legitimately, I listened through and I watched the podcast on YouTube, and you can follow them on the Sportnarium podcast, Sportorium podcast, and they were really well spoken. They knew their stuff. I mean, shoot, I should get out of the business and let them have the mic from Sportnarium.
Well, I don't know if we need to go that far because James Cronin, I'll say right now, sure don't know as much as me, but he'll get there. But listen, I love James, and I told him on social media that he better watch what he's saying because I'm going to address him every week on this show if he says some foolish stuff on his podcast. But to be honest with everybody, you should definitely give them a little bit of a follow. They're doing, a nice new podcast, and I'm excited to see.
A lot of views already, by the way. A lot of views.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that, and they even mentioned to me that I may be a special guest one time. So,
oh wow,
you might see me on the show as well. So, looking forward to that and many other things that are going on. But certainly a great night. We'll see if all the football picks look good. I'm assuming everybody's going with the Rams because that's the only game we did not pick against the Falcons.
I forgot about that game.
I don't think the dumbest team has a chance, so we're all picking the Rams. And certainly, we'll see, Tom Bryce, because everybody's laughing at me and telling me all the steel curtain and the steel nonsense. We'll see when we come on this show next week if I can get that one game's going to be a big one, if I can get that over everybody else. So we'll see, but I'm enjoying that. I am a little bit disappointed, though, Tom Bryce. James Cronin did beat me in fantasy football. But I did get the win against Chris Pizzazz. I'm sorry, Chris. I did.
But James Cronin, I got to be honest.
I was bad. I had a bad week.
On his show, I'm not surprised he kicked your butt because he spoke really well.
He beat you by a few points. Come on, he didn't kick my butt.
He beat you. He beat you.
He won. So listen, he's all happy. I'm kind of hiding from him right now, but at the same time, I'm excited for the matchups going on this weekend. My win against Chris was nice, but Chris is going to do well this season. I got a feeling. So all good and all great, exciting things, and looking forward to next week, Tom.
All great stuff there. And again, shout out to the Sportatorium podcast. I called it Sportnarium at one point, and I apologize because I'm so in my head used to Sportnarium. But obviously, James and the guys did a phenomenal job. Again, phenomenal, top-notch show, and they definitely are well-spoken, covered all the games, and they were just the timing of the show and how it ended. It was a perfect time. I think they have a great future, and I look forward to hearing all this stuff. And I always joke with people. I say, well, one day somebody can take the mic from me, and those guys will certainly be candidates for sure. And I look forward to what the future they do on and off the court in the field. And we'll definitely link up with them very soon on Sportswire Radio. I also, again, want to give a shout out to John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group. You can follow him anytime on Facebook at the Sports Authorities. Make sure you join the page. Chris is a moderator. I, from time to time, post stuff on there. I know Anthony Finkel is always posting stuff on there as well. So please join the group. John is always supporting us. So I thank John for everything he does for us. Also want to thank Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I want to thank them also for joining in. They share all this stuff. I want to thank GT Ministries for their support. We'll be doing a week of coverage for their show upcoming. They're also going to be on the BBC channel. Unfortunately, with Queen Elizabeth's death, that's going to be delayed, but we will work on a date and a time for that. We'll be promoting that. So I want to thank GT Ministries, Gareth Angel for all of that as well. So I look forward to coverage with that as well. I also want to thank Anthony Finkel as well. Rob Maraska, who was on here for a little bit, did a little bit of a cameo. Randy Dillon will come back as well on Sportswire Radio. So I just want to thank everybody who's tuned in. And if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled program in about 5 or so minutes. So you're going to sit down, Marks marathon here. Also, in the Brute Force, I do want to mention Alec Willis, because at some point soon, speaking of October the 15th, and Alec Willis, the coach of the St. Joseph's Brooklyn Bears, he's an assistant coach there now. And, of course, I'm an adopted Golden Eagle. You're a Golden Eagle. So that means coming up, and we're going to have him on. And I spoke with Alec very briefly. We're just waiting to figure out the schedules. We get closer to the schedule.
He's ready to get smoked in the debates again. You know, he thinks
he
had no chance.
He's a hotshot Staten Island real estate broker now. So he's now a part of, I'm sure, the real estate board on Staten Island. He's selling homes. He's a part of Tom Crimmins Reality, who, by the way, that place, the realty place, is literally right up the block from my house on Manor Road. So Alec Willis, listen, he's a phenomenal guy, though. No seriousness. We love Alec Willis. Alec and his family have always done a lot for the Staten Island community. Of course, his grandfather, of course, his father, Sly, and they do so many great things. They've always been big supporters of ours, so I'm looking forward to talking to Alec and also Coach Cocazello later on in the future. So all great stuff here on Sportswire Radio. So I want to thank everybody here for tuning in, because we were with Billy McInerney, formerly of Elite Sports, Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter Show, Chris Pizzea of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, and the Brute Force Brad Weiss, the man who wears many hats from the Level Up Basketball Organization. And Jesse Winter, we will definitely get you on. I promise you that. We'll figure out a time and place. We'll make that happen in the next few weeks. Also, the LI Brew Crew, if that's such a thing still. The Long Island Nets. Also, Plainview JFK Hawks boys JV team, who is the head coach of the boys basketball team. And St. Joseph's, New York, Golden Eagles as well. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's go Mets. Let's go Yankees. Jets, hopefully get it together. Giants, keep the momentum going. Also, college football. If you're a college football fan, you got a good weekend of games ahead. Also, boxing, if you like boxing, Canelo as well. So a lot of great stuff going on. We'll talk about it here throughout the weekend. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Be well. And we'll be back next week on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.